Lord, we just humble ourselves before you this morning as we come into your presence. First, just want to thank you for the moisture you've given our county, Lord. We ask you to continue to bless us with that. Now, Lord, as we have these men and women who have agreed to serve the county, we thank you for them and ask you, Lord, as you are the God of all wisdom and knowledge, that you would bless them today with that which they need as they make decisions on behalf of the citizens of Weston County. Bless them in their endeavors, Lord God, and we thank you for each person who is willing to come and participate in the county business. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Commissioners. Any additions or changes to the agenda?
Attorney Sultan would like to add a prepaid to Pennington County Sheriff's Office in the amount of $51.
Any other additions or changes?
I'd like to have a discussion about setting up meetings with the individual departments regarding budget.
Under new business?
Yes.
So we're not even close to that yet. I won't even send to them for their budget, for them to send back what they're wanting.
Right, I realize that. Kind of preemptive.
Okay. Any other additions or changes? Can I get a motion on that?
Yeah. I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Can I get a second?
I second it.
I have a motion properly brought forward and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand so we can get it down. Aye.
I
Motion passes. Consent agenda. Understand we need to pull one item from that, the fairgrounds. You haven't received the elections for that.
And that was the prepaid for sheriff's department, and how many that?
$51.50, and it's actually to Pennington County Sheriff's Office.
And we're pulling the fairgrounds because she has not received the election. On the consent agenda. We're gonna wait on these items to sign until when we do vouchers, just so we can move forward with this big group. The suggestion of the clerk, so.
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I have a second. We have a motion properly seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
At 9:10, we're a little bit ahead, but is there any public comment?
No, fresh coffee and donuts. My perennial.
Okay.
I would just like to, as far as the burn ban goes, is there something that could actually be written into that burn ban that we don't have to follow those hours now that we've had some moisture, and we could burn our garbage for the next few days till it's blowed out, dried out, or whatever again?
So the fire warden did lift that temporarily.
Oh, did he? Oh, okay, thanks.
Moving on, proposed resolution on declaring vacancies. When you guys talk, please remember that there's a lot of us here, so address the board, let's not talk over each other, and let's have a good conversation and move forward with this. So, please, when you talk, state your name so that everybody knows who you are, and then just move from there. So, go ahead.
My name's William Crowley. I'm here because my name was on the agenda. I had a medical appointment, so I had that moved. But I thought it was important and I should show up there. I've been over February 6th Commissioners meeting. I went over with all of you the fact that this resolution was going to be brought to you for consideration, and reasons that I had that I thought supported why you ought to adopt a resolution. I've reviewed today. I reviewed the video of the February 6th meeting and the February 20th meeting and the minutes of both meetings, and my principal takeaway was that insofar as Commissioner Todd's motion, which was seconded and passed, was made to put on the schedule out a ways, bring this issue back, giving time to invite people most concerned, I think was the language. I'm thinking to myself as I reviewed this yesterday, that from one very good point, genuine point of view, the people most concerned with this proposed resolution, people most concerned with having representation of all the county by at least one representative and one senator, are the citizens of the county, not the elected officials who are elected under a system passed and approved by the legislature and codified into law under the Wyoming electoral statutes. I thought then that today, since that was the reason for putting this meeting off and maybe having it in a sense, that we ought to hear first from anybody that has responded to the invite. I see Alan's here, and I understand there might be some more people appearing by video. And maybe we ought to first thing is get to that. What do they have to say? Because that's what you wanted to hear, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. We have Representative Alan Slagle here, we have Chip Nyman, and we have Mr. Raymond here to help out. There was a possibility that Chuck could zoom in if he could, but Kerry's here in case, that didn't happen. He had other obligations, so he wasn't 100% sure that he was going to be able to attend. He may or may not, from what I understand.
Chuck won't be able to make it. He had slip board obligations that he wasn't able to get away from. So he apologizes. And
Well,
So we have those representatives here to talk about this as well.
so that's my thought, that since they're here, maybe we should get their questions or opinions or comments.
Oh, sorry.
My first question, I guess, for Mr. Nyman, a month ago, I was told you don't represent Weston County. I'd like to give you an opportunity to tell me if that's different.
Well, appreciate the question.
Yeah.
I guess based on the current system and the way that the voting districts are divided up, under our current way that the legislature has set, and it was all basically put together by one man, one vote, is according to the state of Wyoming, and evidently the federal elections, based on the number of constituents that are needed to represent that area divided out amongst the state. The state of Wyoming says that I represent the northern half of Weston County. Now, as far as all of Crook or anything like that, Yeah, this is all correct, and according to the state, and the way that my district is drawn, is the northern half to Newcastle and Weston County, so unless I hear otherwise,
That was my understanding.
that was
Thank
my
you
understanding.
for clearing that up.
But do you want to start us off, Ren, on your thoughts?
You want
on
me
this?
to take the lead on this?
I would love for you to.
It's easier to stand up. Sitting back down in here.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
We'll see. Okay. I guess, let me stand over here, or whatever works here. As far as the question is, and it goes, well, for any of you that don't know me, I'm Representative Chip Nyman. I serve in House District 1, which, as for right now, currently encompasses all of Craig County and the northern one portion of Weston County. That's the way the districts are currently drawn. From my understanding, and the way that I have understood and read and had discussion, and I have some information there that we can certainly make copies of, and how this all kind of got to where it's at is based on one man, one vote. Previously, the way this was set up, if you look at our state constitution, you've got it where it did say that each county had its own senator. And that system is probably something that we can pursue, but in reality, the way it's set right now, it's going to require a lawsuit. And that was attempted once before, and I'm just going to give a 30,000-foot overview of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody knows otherwise. But that was attempted, and it failed. The reason that my understanding is that the states, because of the federal decision on it, the federal has the last say, basically. Our laws are subject to the federal government, is what they're telling us. And so, but the admonition that was given to me is that this county and the people of the state of Wyoming can sue and can do some different things if they so see fit, if the judicial system would allow or make that determination. One of the things, I guess, that they talked about in the conversation that I had is that if we're going to go to one senator per county, then we would have to base it on the lowest population county in Wyoming, and that would be Niobrara. Niobrara would then have a senator, and then we would divide that number of constituents in that county by each county, and then we would divide it then by representatives. They said that's possible, but the only way that would happen would be probably through a lawsuit. It would have to be, basically challenged that we don't want to respect the one man, one vote legislation, or I don't know what you want to call it, one man, one vote determination that was made. And what they're talking about is that we have to have basically balance or equity in the number of votes, that each district would not be heavily suited. And what they're saying is that under the current system is that larger population areas would not receive the same amount of representation as smaller population areas. And so what was elaborated to me is that, okay, let's say, for example, we determine that Niobrara has a senator. Then we take that population and we divide it into each one of the rest of the counties. And then that would be, the number of senators each one of them would get, or representatives. And they said that consequently we would be looking at hundreds, literally hundreds, multiple hundreds of representatives. And they said the cost and everything else would far outweigh that. And so that was what was presented to me. To be completely honest with you folks, I do support what these folks are trying to do. I do. It's clearly in our Constitution. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you can look at this, you can say that it's definitely in there. The situation that we face, I think in all reality, is that we fight one man, one vote. And that's going to be the issue that we face. Now, and I would love to hear, there's attorneys in here and stuff, and I would love to hear their determination on this, because I've heard it from the other side. And that is that, do the counties have sovereignty individually? And if the counties do have sovereign individually, then what is the state's role in that? And then ultimately, does the state or the counties have to submit basically to the federal regulations regarding the vote and how districts are created? And so that, I guess, is the discussion that needs to be had, is what is available to the state and to the counties ultimately to say that we are a sovereign of the state of Wyoming, or are we subject to the state of Wyoming, who is ultimately subject to, under some circumstances, the federal government? And so can we offer laws or say that we're gonna do it a different way than what the federal government has placed upon the land? And that's the current thing, and that's what I have in that information. I will read you one thing here, and I see Mr. Curley has a question, so you might want to take his question, and I can maybe add to it. Mr. Curley.
Thank you. Members of the board. This thinking, this pattern of thought, brought to us from a meeting that Chip attended, is a very good example of what I warned you about on the 6th of February. You should not be motivated, if you pass this resolution, by any desire to fight the feds, to contest the feds, to argue with one man, one vote. If you're going to do it, I'm looking forward to the day somebody somehow gets the whole thing into a court. I want it in a Wyoming court if that happens to the Wyoming judges looking at Wyoming constitutional law. I don't want anybody to be able to say, well, but they're attacking one man, one vote, 14th Amendment law. No, and we know both as Chip concedes, or the group conceded that he was at, it could be done. We have federal judges on record in their opinions saying they could follow both constitutions. But you'd have a lot of seats, that's the problem. We'll save for another day this issue about seats. I just remind you, I touched on this once, the apparently world's oldest continual legislative body, the English Parliament, doesn't have seats for everybody. It has benches. What a thought. And if you want to get there for something you get there early. You don't have to waste tons of money to get more people in the legislature. But that's still not really the issue. So my take is the group you were speaking with sees this and assumes it's an attack on federal 14th Amendment law, one man, one vote. It shouldn't be. It isn't. When I helped draft the proposed resolution, when I talked to citizens in the county, they want their legislature to follow their constitutional limits. It's called American constitutional government. That's what they want. They have no fight with the Fed. Thank you.
My question to those guys, and I appreciate the information, Mr. Curley. My question to LSO, full disclosure, as my legislative service office, which is a resource that I can go to ask for history and legal counsel. They said that, my question was, why can the United States, why can Wyoming have 2 senators? And that's all that California is limited to. And his discussion to me back was, well, that was a determination that was made upon when we ratified the states, is that in an effort to, at the federal level, is what he said. Here, this is very short. No, I promise I'll try not to slur my R's or do anything foolish here, but I'll try to read what he gave back to me when I questioned him about this. This is Representative Item attaches a memo also produced before the legislative redistricting in 2022, and that's kind of what some of this is based on, is that they had a memo out, and I have that memo here, and your good deputy clerk said that she would make copies for everybody, and I would love for y'all to read this determination that came from the LSO lawyers, and they could certainly maybe answer some questions or maybe make it clear as mud. It's hard to tell in that situation. Attached to the memo also produced before the legislative redistricting provides that also, you asked why a state senate cannot have members allocated on a basis other than substantially equal population by county, for example. Similar to the manner in which 2 United States senators are allocated to each state under the United States Constitution of the 17th Amendment. Well, the federal courts have consistently held that representation in the upper house of Congress based on each state rather than on the total population of that state was a compromise. between larger states and small states at Constitutional Convention. The Great Compromise, or the Connecticut Plan, was a recognition of the sovereign authority of each state and the rights of those sovereigns to have equal suffrage in the upper chamber. And then he cites some information that you guys can go to. The difference is a county or a state is not a sovereign government, according to this document. A county is simply a political subdivision of a state that only has the duties and authorities granted by the state. So when a state constitution requires apportionment of legislators to a state senate by county, that deviates from the requirements of the Equal Protection Clause, Mr. Curley, of the United States Constitution of substantially equal population between the districts. The federal courts have consistently for the past 60 years held that the federal requirement of one man, one vote supersedes the state requirement of apportionment by county. We do not believe that the framers of the Constitution intended to permit the same vote diluting discrimination to be accomplished through the device of districts containing widely varied numbers of inhabitants. To say that a vote is worth more in one district than another would run counter to our fundamental ideas of democratic government. Mr. Curley.
Well, I appreciate your peeking, you're taking the lid off the LSO thinking. They're stuck in issues of the 60s and 70s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. They're stuck on how we got to 1992 in the Wyoming legislature, all the court cases that went on, which litigated that all these things and established federal constitution rules. Part of that constitution is the 14th Amendment. The Supremes in Washington discovered in the late 50s that it had a new meaning that nobody ever knew before, and the one result was one man, one vote, the new law of the land, and that got litigated for decades. That's where they're stuck. This resolution is not challenging the state's theory that counties are only creatures of the state. Not challenging that theory. Does it need to? This resolution is not challenging that districts should be basically equal. Not perfectly, not mathematically
I'll leave
equal,
you a
but
check when I leave.
I almost lost you there.
Yeah, I gained a little weight on vacation.
We'll get you a bottle of glue.
No, I wish. I'll leave you a check.
So we're not, they want to fight an old issue, none of which we're raising. What they don't say, or haven't said to you apparently, is that the Wyoming legislature has only the powers granted to it by the people as expressed in the state constitution. That's all the powers they have. And the state constitution, if you agreed, says that for reapportionment, the legislature shall district the state. It says that the county lines shall be district lines. Nobody's arguing that if the smallest district is Niobrara, that would lead to an increase in the number of seats or a constitutional amendment. Something would have to give. And that argument's not being had today. They're missing the point. Did they talk to you about the need for the legislature to follow the Constitution?
And we can go on and read through the rest of it. It's just 2 more paragraphs here. We'll see if he addresses that. Reynolds versus Sims is what he cites as a basic constitutional standard. The Equal Protection Clause requires that the seats in both houses of a bicameral state legislature must be apportioned on a population basis.
Correct.
An individual's right to vote for state legislators is constitutionally impaired when its weight is in a substantial fashion diluted when compared with votes of citizens living in other parts of that state. And then he cites Gordon v. Carpet, which
Right.
we mentioned before. As I said, we could redistrict in such a manner that both the requirements of Article 3, Section 3 of the Wyoming Constitution and the Equal Protection Clause were satisfied. To do this, the smallest county, given one senator, Niobrara, with 2,275 residents of the 2020 census, then the Wyoming State Senate would need to have 250 members to meet the proportional requirement because each Senate district couldn't be greater than 10%, plus or minus 5% of either side, of 2,275 people with a total state population of 580,000 in 2020. Under Article 3, Section 3 of the Wyoming Constitution, the Wyoming House would then need at least 500 members. In 1992, the federal courts, which Mr. Curley cited, in 1992, the federal courts recognized that such an outcome would not provide for functioning legislative system and directed the legislature to disregard to the provision of Article 3, Section 3 in future apportionments. And that was also going to be Carter. So, and that's what Matt Oldrich, the lead guy, gave me.
It wasn't quite accurate the last on his part, not yours. What the federal court said is that it's obvious to us that the founders, the Wyoming founders at the Laramie Convention, desired a small legislature. That's it. That's their analysis. They completely overlooked that those founders provided for increasing the number of counties over time, provided for increases in population, provided for, and if you follow the Constitution, for increases in the House and Senate. That's what they actually provided for. This judge did this deep analysis, historical analysis, that it's obvious to me is not good authority.
Yeah. Now, ultimately, what Matt told me was his feeling is that it needs to go to court. It needs to find somebody that's willing to challenge this and to take it to the state Supreme Court and to challenge the current law and let it be determined in the
So
court.
my question to you is, should the people of this county and the people, the citizens of the state, cease asking their county commissioners to support this resolution and wait for lawsuits? Are you counseling to get the democratic process? Let's go to law.
Well, I can tell you this, Mr. Curley, that based on the current makeup of your legislature, floating this through the legislature's got a snowball's chance in hell. Courts, yes.
There are times when pitching the snowball is the right thing to do.
As long as they're close enough, it'll hit them before it melts.
Furthermore, I'm thinking too that if this is done, it will hasten the day the matter gets into court, but it will invite bigger players.
I believe you're right. Yes.
And therefore it's probably, I do agree with you, whatever, if this passes here, in due time and not so long out in the future, the matter will be in court. But I'm trying to get the issue framed. What issue goes into court? The LSO people will go in screaming, "You're attacking one man, one vote." No, I want the record clear. Nobody's attacking one man, one vote. Not the issue. Nobody's attacking federal supremacy. Nobody's attacking, etc. It's a state constitutional issue. Now, if the result of pushing it is the Constitution gets changed, something that maybe should have been done 30 years ago or more, but they didn't. The legislature didn't go to the people and ask for authority to create districts not provided for in the current Constitution. They went behind the backs of the people and just on their own started creating free-range districts.
And that was based on the one man, one vote.
It was based on what they thought they had to do, given the federal court rulings. Plus, you know, throughout the history, the Wyoming legislature really asked for it, because when given a chance to redistrict in compliance with what the feds were asking, the Wyoming legislature came back with something as clearly unequitable as they originally had proposed. Trying the patience of the federal judges who ended up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, they did.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want the issue if it gets in court, it should be because we want the state constitution followed by the state legislature. That's liberty. That's the essence of liberty, to be in a free society. The people that run it are bounded by the powers granted. There's nothing more fundamental in American politics than that.
So, may I ask for this? Mr. Curtis, how do you see this progressing then? I mean, who would start that process and that suit and bring that?
Thank you. I've already confessed lack of a crystal ball to the commission, to the board and private grievance occasions. But I do think if this was adopted, some other counties will do likewise, good chance of that. I think it would trigger a statutory process asking the Republican Party, state party, to contact all the precinct people in this county and to get from them, convene a meeting, get from them 3 names for each position to be given the board here. Eventually that would be done and the board would get it. This is all, I think, 22-18-111. It's the Wyoming election law allows for this procedure once a vacancy is declared. Then the board would presumably select one name from each group of 3, one for to be county senator, one to be county representative. Now, if it gets that far, and if it, I think one will have started, the people will have started the conversation that's been needed all along. Why are you legislating elections in Wyoming that you have no constitutional authority to do?
Do you think, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I've been drinking pretty good, haven't I? I do it almost without thinking anymore. Mr. Chairman, through Mr. Chairman, Mr. Curl, do you think it would require declaration of vacancies first before you could just bring the suit? Do you think that would be is that what would be necessary to basically create because I mean, here would be my thought, just based on what I see.
Yeah.
Weston County is going to show up with a senator and a representative and say, hey, here's our guys. Chip and Alan don't represent us. I have a vacancy. And we have duly provided 3 names. Our commissioners have chosen that name, and we are going to install our representative in the legislature of Wyoming.
Well,
I think that's going to be met with strong resistance at the very least. And so my question is, how can a person thoughtfully progress through this without, and with all due respect, without making you guys look like as if you're a bunch of crazy, look what they're doing? Because does that undermine the position? Because I would want you to go down there with the strongest position as possible to be able to say, this is what we're doing, this is what the Constitution says, and this is what we're wanting to provide. I'm just asking for your opinion. What do you think that would be the best way to approach that?
You've been recognized.
Thank you. It's not gonna go there unless these people that are chosen by the board are on our ballot. And our election's coming up right now, so we do this and we choose John Doe and Jane Doe. And if Chuck Gray does not provide us a ballot with those names on it, nobody's going to Cheyenne.
Then you could sue. Is that what you're saying? That
Somebody
would provide
could
the
sue.
opportunity.
It lays it in Chuck Gray's lap. Are you gonna abide by this and put them on the ballot, or are you not gonna abide by it? That's where, do you agree?
I think, yes, that's one scenario amongst many that may occur that would bring in a bigger whale in this fish pond with more resources than I have to litigate it.
But Jane Doe isn't gonna show up in Cheyenne without having been on the ballot.
I'm glad we've had an opportunity to ruminate over this for a month, because I agree 100% that it's an important aspect to have local representation. But I also think that in times of this conversation, there's cherry picking going on. And I mean, in Article 1, Section 37 of the Wyoming Constitution, it says the Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land. So I'm asked to ignore that.
No, you're not. We're asked to enforce that. Nobody is contesting
Mr. Curley,
that.
may I
Oh,
finish?
yeah, let Commissioner.
Well, then don't turn up the law on its
I'm
end.
supposed to ignore what the Supreme Court has said,
No, you're supposed to follow it.
the one man, one vote.
Yeah. No one's challenging that. We want Wyoming legislature to follow its constitution.
So who, if we do this, is gonna file this lawsuit? If we nominate these representatives and they go down to Cheyenne, they're not gonna swear them in. So nobody down there is gonna sue us for sending 3 people randomly to Cheyenne.
But if there is a lawsuit, it will be much more likely to be one that can be kept in a Wyoming court on Wyoming issues.
But who's gonna file
Because you'll
it?
have people's interests, Wyoming citizens who've asked for the representation, constitutional representation by these people appointed by this board. You're framing the issue so that the LSO geniuses can't twist it into a federal issue.
Who's gonna file a lawsuit, Ryan?
Who knows?
I mean, that's really the crutch of it all. You're asking us to do something in the hopes that somebody will file a lawsuit.
No, I'm asking you to do something in the hopes that the first county will ask for constitutional government, and maybe it will grow from Weston County. I don't need, you're not a lawyer, I'm not here as a lawyer, I'm here as a citizen.
But I am a
It
voter.
it is both a blessing and a curse that everything in America ends up in courts. But it's not the only foundation of power. In fact, it's not the fundamental foundation of power. All power under the Wyoming Constitution, you can quote that one too, resides in the people.
And we abide by the supreme law of the land.
Yeah, absolutely. Not contesting that. Districts should be fundamentally equal. And so there would be either a bigger legislature or a constitutional amendment finally submitted by the legislature to the people for approval.
So your outcome in this is we end up with 290 representatives down there. I mean, you think Washington's a mess? Wait till they do that in the state of Wyoming.
I grew up and lived next door to New Hampshire for decades. This is the largest one in the world, the Democratic legislature. Their response to one man, one vote was unique. They said, all right, we have to have one from every town. Our smallest town's like 17 people, Dixville Notch. So we'll have somebody from Dixville Notch. So now we have a giant list. It works. Wasn't a problem. And the people in Dixville Notch and every other town in New Hampshire are glad to have their community represented and to have someone in their community be the representative that goes to the state capitol. No problem. It works. If they don't like it, they don't want to put benches in, then submit to the people a constitutional amendment and gain the legal authority to do what they want to do. I myself would favor that, but I'm not arguing on my own behalf. I'm trying to represent the viewpoint of a group of people in the county.
Mr. Curley, let me recognize Dan, you've been waiting for a while.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I've basically got 3 things. In address of what's going to happen, I would like to back up what William said, is at the County Central Committee meeting for the Weston County at the convention, Mr. Dave Holland, who is the 2nd chair in the state, drove for probably at least an hour and a half to get down there. He was on a tight schedule and he had to go somewhere else. We broke and gave him time to speak. There was no elected officials from Weston County at this, but and I know you guys don't like my words, you want to hear it in person, but Dave's not here, but we do have witnesses, this is what he said. He congratulated us, and I'm paraphrasing now, he said the whole state is looking at Northeast Wyoming as leadership. That was his comment. So what we do, the rest of the counties like to follow. It happens in the Republican Party, it happens everywhere. My next question is, I have a question for Mr. Chip Nyman, and bear with me, I'm a little slow on the uptake. You said the LSO, or whatever article you was reading, said that the county was a subdivision and had no power of its own, only what the state grants it. I'm confused. If that is true, why in 1992 did the Wyoming legislatures, the senators, come back to the counties and ask the counties to pass a resolution to violate the Constitution? If they have the authority, they didn't have to ask the county, they could have done it. But they didn't do it because they couldn't do it. And so they lied and the counties all swore to it. The counties should have raised up right then, but they were sneaky enough, they gerrymandered enough that most of the counties didn't feel like they didn't lose representation.
Don't pull your leg, Dan, I have no idea why he said that, but that
Well,
is.
but is
we
that-
have that, you know, the counties are subject to
The question of who has the authority, it answers itself. But my next question is, what will happen if we pass this resolution? I mean, that's the concern of the board, right? You've broken no laws by doing that. You're making a statement, and you need to find the answer.
I don't think the board's looking to stop anything. I think what we're trying to do is get the best information we can, as we've already talked about. There's already a resolution that hasn't been vacated, but you're saying it didn't declare vacancies. Okay, so, you know, there is a resolution in place already. It's just not the one that you guys think that you need or we may need. I don't know the answer to that. But the reason why we brought these people in here, and I think, you know, Commissioner Todd makes great points, there's a lot of speed bumps in the road here. And we're just trying to make sure that we make the right decision. And it's not a, you know, we're against you, you're against us.
Right.
I don't think we're at that point. I think what we're trying to do is just get the best information we can. And I think they're legitimate questions. I mean, what, you know, where do we go from here? And I think Chip's asked those questions. And so I don't want to confuse this. This isn't a battle against the constituents. It's a, what's the best way to approach it? Because you have a resolution already. It's already there. There's some thought that that resolution shouldn't have never been wrote, and that's illegal. But that's another back and forth. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's, bring out in front of the board different opinions. I do not believe, this is spokesman for the resolution. I do not take the position that there's any issue over state sovereignty, federal sovereignty, or county sovereignty. I concede supremacy of the federal law. Don't wish to challenge it. What I do argue is fundamental in this issue, and what has authority is the people, and they've expressed it in their constitution, which limits Wyoming legislature's ability when it comes to passing electoral laws. That's the issue of who has power that's relevant to the proposed resolution, not counties or state.
Well, I'd also like to recognize we have Alan Slagle, we have Jeremiah Redmond, and I'd like to get you guys to comment on this a little bit as well, since you took the time to come and voice your opinions. I'll start off with Alan, if you would.
See who I'm addressing. I'll move over here, might be easier. Well, thank you guys for inviting me. One thing I would like to say is, going back in history, our country was not formed as a democracy. It was formed as a representative republic. And unfortunately, our school systems have taught we're a democracy for years. And so we as a people have bought into that idea that we're a democracy. And the whole idea of representative republic was representatives to represent a district. It wasn't necessarily a certain number of people, it was a district. And so that's why this whole concept of districting by county lines is important, in my opinion. Because when we as legislators go down and appropriate money, we don't appropriate money for District 2 or District 1. We appropriate money for Crook County, Weston County, Niobrara County, by counties. And so it puts us in a bind as legislators, being a part of many districts and sometimes having more than one legislator in district. Fortunately, right now, Chip and I mostly agree on what we want to do with the portioning money. But there, in the past, there's been, you have a county that has two different representatives, and one that wants to spend lots of money, and the other one doesn't want to spend any money, so they vote against each other. And so it doesn't work well for counties when we're divided up like this, when that's the way we govern down there in Cheyenne. So my thought is we need to move forward on this whole idea. And I'm not sure, I think this might be a first step, because in any process, you always have to have the person that takes the first step and is bold enough to do it. And it might be that we're the county that needs to do that. But I know it's up to you guys to make that decision. And but that's kind of what I'm thinking. And I mean, if you have any other questions for me, I'd be willing to try to answer them. But that's my thoughts on this whole process.
You know, and to add to what Alan just said, it's something that we see, that I'm seeing in the legislature, I'm sure Alan does too. We are speedily losing the rural vote in Wyoming. And by doing what you're talking about, and that's why I support it. I believe in what they're trying to do, because we're watching the major metropolitan municipalities control the vote, because we are handling it democratically. You know, I mean, I get some ad in there, and I think it just to compensate for the town of Gillette, Wyoming, currently it takes 9 Wyoming counties population to compensate to vote for what Gillette can do, just Gillette, Wyoming. And so what they're trying to do, and I think that's why it does need to be pursued, because if you had what Jefferson called the cooling plate or the cooling tray, and that was the ability to be able to have representation based on those county areas, which generally are representative of their municipalities or their rural nature. And so it would keep the rural counties from being overrun, because right now we can't outvote. I mean, your municipalities, and you look at this, look how many representatives would come out of Cheyenne if we did what we're talking about. But still, with the time it got to the Senate, Niobrara would have the same senator as Cheyenne did. That's how we have checks and balances, the way our founders set it up in the national level. And so it intrigues me to no end, and I appreciate what they're trying to do. And if a bold move like this, of just basically drawing a line in the sand and saying, what are you gonna do with this? At least recognize it.
For the record, you're recommending that we would sign this resolution.
I would recommend we sign this resolution. And one other comment I have, the Republican Party was working on this whole concept, must have been 2 or 3 years ago, maybe before the last redistricting, I don't remember. But they had actually came up with some figures where taking Niobrara County as our smallest county and then working up on it, it wasn't gonna go exactly to that one man, one vote. But they could apportion it out to where every county got a senator, and then and they were trying to keep it within numbers like we have now, like 62 representatives. They portioned it out, so it's like, I don't remember, it's like 3 or 4 or 5 counties that were all kind of right in that same deal with Niobrara County. They just had 1 representative. And then from there, it expanded up. The more population you got more representatives. And so, I mean, there is a way to do it. It won't exactly meet the one man, one vote requirement that they came out with. But in my opinion, we're not a democracy. And it all goes back to this representative government. We're representing areas, not numbers of people. And so, yeah, I would recommend that you guys sign this resolution. And I mean, I know it's going to be some controversy, and I don't know how it's all going to work out throughout the state. And it might mean that I'm not in the legislature, but if that's the way it is,
Take me out of there too.
it's that's the way it works. I mean, but I guess that's my thoughts.
Mr. Redden, would you comment, please?
Step over here if I can.
Yeah.
Good morning, folks. I'm Jeremiah Riemann. I represent the commissioners. It's great to be here. I don't know that I'm going to have a whole lot to say that's different than what you've heard from the two good representatives. They've hit a lot of key areas, but I'll try and touch on a few key points here. I'll start out though by saying I'm not an attorney, so I'm not providing any legal guidance. You've got your county attorney here, and I would certainly recommend considering his opinion. I'm also not a redistricting expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I do have a few things that I think are important here. Counties are in my blood. I fight tooth and nail for all these commissioners on a daily basis. I think that two representatives would share that. It is important, I think, the resolution that the commissioners have passed and that's being considered are based on a provision of the Wyoming Constitution, Article 3, Section 3, which of course says one senator, one representative. Not going to dispute that. If you happen to have a copy of the printed version of Wyoming's Constitution that the Secretary of State's office puts out, in relationship to that particular provision of our Constitution, it has some footnotes to it. And what it says is that this section is inconsistent with the application of the one person, one vote principle under circumstances as they exist or presently exist in Wyoming. Consequently, the Wyoming legislature may disregard this provision when reapportioning either the Senate or the House of Representatives. That's an important little footnote that's in the printed copy that's out there. And that particular provision comes from a case that's been mentioned a number of times here, Gorin versus Carpin from back in 1991. And that was part of the remedy, part of the conclusion that the court had in that particular case. What's important to state, at least I think so, in relationship to it, is that the case didn't toss out this particular provision of our Wyoming Constitution because, as the good representative Nyman has said, there is a possible way to represent both the U.S. Constitution of one person, one vote, and the Wyoming Constitution of one senator, one representative. Unfortunately, that means growing our state legislature quite considerably. And so our legislative body has had this natural tension of what are going to be our priorities in redistricting. Generally, they've said we want to have 30 state senators and 60 state representatives. That changed a little bit through the process because the numbers didn't quite work out this last time, but they stayed really close to that. They also had some other principles, the 10% deviation, which of course is trying to get at that one person, one vote. The U.S. The federal courts have said you can have about 10% deviation, and that's okay. That's considered a minor violation. Anything above that, they consider a major violation, and it's the responsibility of the state to defend why you did that particular thing. I also provided to the commissioners, and I'm happy to give it to anyone, a copy of other redistricting principles that our legislature had. And in the third one, it says, to the greatest extent possible in establishing election districts, county boundaries shall be followed. So that was a priority that our legislative body had this last time. Fortunately, that didn't work out for Weston County. It may have worked out for a lot of other counties. I think, in fact, in most other counties, it did work out. And that might be a problem if you're looking to gather others in this argument. The other counties might be saying, we did end up in an okay spot. So I do bring that up. I do think it's important to look at Goring versus Carpin, and I provided that to the commissioners and would certainly give it to you all for your reading, because it does have that provision that I mentioned that's referenced in the bottom of the Constitution. But it has some other stuff that I think is a little bit important. And again, remember, I represent the counties. I fight for counties on a daily basis. Counties are in my blood. But the court had something to say about counties a few times. I'm not going to read each one of those, but I will just read one provision that's again in the conclusion of the court case. And it says, the legislature may legitimately pursue its desire to assure each county representation as a county. In fact, it is our hope that the legislature will be able to fashion a reapportionment plan that fulfills the citizens' need for representation in each individual county. What the legislature may not do, however, is elevate the pursuit, or that pursuit, above the pursuit of substantial equality among individual voters. Reapportionment according to regional interest, if achieved at the expense of significant intrusion upon individual voting rights, is intolerable. And this next piece is kind of a key piece. Counties do not stand on equal constitutional ground with citizens at the ballot box. So they had something to say about counties in all of this. Again, I do think that you can satisfy these tensions. It just requires growing the legislature, unfortunately. You have a resolution that's before you, and I certainly respect that. I don't have any argument to it, but if I'm offering an opinion to you, it seems to add perhaps a step that's unnecessary in the process. If your ultimate case is that you dislike the redistricting process, bring a case against the redistricting process. Alternatively, if you want to change the Wyoming Constitution, either one of these gentlemen could introduce a resolution at the next legislative session to bring forward a constitutional amendment to be brought to the people. Now, that would require 2/3 vote of the body, the legislative body on both sides to get it passed, but it would go out to the voters. Unfortunately, it does take a couple of years, so just know it's going to be a few years out before it would hit the ballot again, because it's not just every time an election comes up, it's the general election. And then the last thing I would just say is, you certainly could get this into a Wyoming court. I don't think that's a problem, but don't expect that it's going to just stay in a Wyoming court. Don't anticipate that it won't end up in a federal court. In all likelihood, it's going to end up in a federal court. Goring versus Carpin, that's a federal decision that has impact on counties. I think I've probably hit on a lot more than I need to. I'm happy to answer questions. It's an important conversation. I don't disparage anybody from having it.
Thank you.
I don't take a lot of opposition with the whole thing. I think that the conversation is probably what needs to start to happen with the state in general and the counties in general that are affected mostly by this, that there is an issue. And if this resolution is nothing more than to at least start that conversation amongst the people in the state of Wyoming, that's great. I hope it doesn't fall into the dustbins of history like our last resolution, because after all, we don't have home rule here, and what we say just doesn't go, and there's other things that are considered in everything we do, but I think that for the purpose of a conversation starting piece, maybe it'll start it, I don't know. But it might not, but it might. It certainly won't start a lawsuit, I don't think.
I don't
I
either.
think somebody here has to prove that we are being harmed somehow.
There's a three-way tie here, so we'll let Commissioner Borton go, and then I'll have you and,
I got a couple questions for our representatives. When you put your name in the hat to be a representative for a county that is divided by district, how do you prepare yourself in mind and duties to take on that task?
I guess what I would say is, I just realized I've got a lot more people that I've got to see. I mean, being part of my district is 3 counties, so if the Farm Bureau wants me to at their meetings, that means I've got 3 Farm Bureau meetings I've got to attend rather than 1. I mean, if I need to be going to county commissioner meetings, I've got 3 county commissions I've got to attend meetings for. So it increases the duties for me as being a representative for a district that encompasses three counties. I mean, and so how do I prepare for that? I just gotta allocate more time for spending across that whole area.
That would be the same. I mean, when you look at it as a district, so I have District 1, and that means Weston 7 as a school district I have to do, Campbell, 1. And so I've got 2 commissions, 2 city seats. I come to Newcastle to meetings because this is your county seat, so it causes more traveling. But I think you just look at it as that's just part of the responsibility that you've taken on, and you realize that those are folks you need to represent, and you're going to do the best job you can to try to stay connected with them and try to be available. And I think it's a real challenge for a lot of people. We've got folks, I know, I think it's Pepper, I think she has like 5 school boards in her district because of the way it was drawn. You know, that is a real challenge. And so there is another point in this that can be easily made. Look at the less hassle that goes with being able to oversee 1 county as a senator. Now, as a representative, no. But as a senator, that would be pretty incredible, you know, that you could focus all of your energy on that. But I think you just look at the job and you just take it on, and you know that's your responsibility, and you do the best you possibly can to provide the services the people elect you to do. And I will say this, I do know this, and to Commissioner Todd's point, you miss 100% of the stuff you don't shoot at. So just knowing that going in, if it does nothing more than even to Mr. Reeman's point, I think the conversation can be begun, and it can be, you know, a challenge kind of laid down before everybody else. Say, hey, well, Weston's interested in doing this. They see a need to address this concern and get it taken care of, or at least have it discussed. And so maybe you folks are the ones that need to fire the first shot.
Thank you. 2 years ago, well, this topic has been on the plate for a while. And 2 years ago, when Chuck Gray was running for Secretary of State, Danny Bow brought this up and kind of cornered him up on it and said, if you were to receive this position, would you be in support of this resolution? And he was him-hawing and trying to find a corner. He said he would support it, but before he set the pen down, he knew that he'd be sued. Well, a question that I have, Trish had said that it pretty much lies, if we were to do this, it would lie in the lap of the Secretary of State. Define support on behalf of Chuck Gray. I know that he said I would support it, but what does that mean? What actions would Chuck Gray do that would define that support, other than saying, I can say I support something with words and maybe not follow through with any action? So the definition of that support I'm interested in.
You're gonna get it only if this resolution passes. Otherwise, you'll never know what he might have meant.
I'm gonna let Commissioner Wagner go, and then you guys, and then I'll remind you, we've got about 10 more minutes, we need to wrap this up. It's been a good conversation, but I'd also like to hear from our county attorney after this and his thoughts on it. So go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I really appreciate where this is coming from. We know everything we do, we say we want smaller government, smaller government. Well, if this goes through, we have a huge government. We've went against our belief of a smaller government. My question is why aren't we suing over the redistricting? You know, that's been on the plate every 10 years. Why don't we sue over that? Is a question, Mr. Curley.
Go ahead.
Well,
Go ahead and sue. Go ahead and sue, but do that at your will. You're free to do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. But that's not what is being asked of the board to consider today.
okay.
And I agree with you and everyone that's expressed that this is gonna get in court. I'll bet a lot of money it's gonna get in court and give you the best odds ever. So I'm not worried about it getting in court.
If it goes to court, who foots the bill?
Depends who the parties are, doesn't it?
Well,
The legislature will have you pay for their part in the court for
And I'll-
violating the state constitution. They'll charge you.
and I'll tell you as a county, this county can't afford it.
I'm not pushing this county into it.
Well, if this county, if it moves forward and it gets sued and it comes back out to every county that's involved, who's gonna pay that bill?
Well, and what's your scenario to see the county get sued? What have you done that somebody can complain about in court? What would you have done?
If this goes forward, if it gets into lawsuits, the state's involved in it, and you said they will proportion back out to the counties that are involved. If Weston County's named in it, we're gonna be hung on the bill for part of the bill.
All the counties will help pay for the Wyoming legislature's legal bills.
We can't afford it though. Our county can't afford it.
Talk to the legislature. They're the ones ignoring the Constitution.
I see a no-win the way this comes out, you know.
What about starting the conversation in the state at a wider level than here? What about the value of getting other people interested in what's been a good discussion?
We're the only county that's really, a lot of the counties have come out better because of this. I want us to be whole. We was down in Cheyenne fighting to be whole. And it was put out that we left the meetings in Cheyenne several times on the redistricting side, that we would be whole. And it got changed.
And you brought that up in February.
Yes.
Of all the commissioners, I'm most surprised at your reluctance. Because you knew that under the way the legislature does things now, the people have no guarantee of what they'll come up with at all. Because there are no rules they gotta follow. And you're happy with that?
No, I'm not
All
happy
right,
with it.
then pass the resolution.
But as a county, we have such a small voice. Nobody's going to want to say, oh, Weston County did this. We're going to get right behind them because they carry the weight of the state.
Okay, that's a bit facetious, and I've done talking.
I'm gonna, go ahead,
Yeah.
you're next, and then you are, so go ahead.
So,
Thanks, Ed.
get over here. My name is Stanley Jasinski, and I've heard a lot of good discussion here today. My thoughts around this is that I haven't heard anybody in this room today say that this wasn't in the Constitution. I've heard nobody say it wasn't. I believe that, as Representative Nyman says, in this time of days, we just saw what the legislature in Cheyenne and our imperial governor is capable of doing. They took the voice of the people right away from the people. Big bills that passed 90%, 92%, 90% of the Senate and the House down in Cheyenne were ignored by the governor of this state. They took the voice of the people, the will of the people, and he just vetoed it all. I believe that I also believe that actions
are more important sometimes than outcomes. And we've heard that here. We need to have this discussion. I've sat here for a couple years now, and I've seen how this county spent money, and I would rather take some of the money that it's spent over the last couple of years and put it towards something like this, the will of the people. Because we are, in this state, losing our ability, urban and rural. This is a real thing. I think it's possibly even already lost. And if you take all the new influx of people coming here willingly, and then the ones that are coming here illegally, and they're being distributed around the urban centers, and they're going to be counted on the census, and that's how the districting is going to be done. And you're going to have illegals counted on the U.S. census, and they're going to be used to redistrict the urban centers in this state. And then I heard about what the legislators are now. What will they be then? I believe that this county commissioners, I'm asking my county commissioners to do this and do it wholeheartedly, because I'd rather see my county lead than follow. And I think this is something that's been going on, kicking the can since 91, if I understand it, or 92, with people saying, yeah, I should, and yeah, we should, but it's not convenient, we might get sued. Let it happen. I'll put my tax money toward the lawsuit. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
We've been at this since 2014. I wasn't around 1914. We came up with the idea of the resolution, and it was passed by the Board of Commissioners that said, we believe in county borders and representation of county representatives. As a side note, we have a pretty blessed set of representatives here, Chip and Alan. However, on the Senate side, we don't have any representative at all. They were voted in by people in Campbell County, and that was it. We have no say. We have no representation from him. In fact, publicly stated, he said he wouldn't even do anything for us because we didn't support him in the fact of finances and stuff like that. But he didn't do anything anyway. We have the opportunity here to step forward and create something pretty decent, I think. It's going to be messy. No pain, no gain. But the representation of having our Constitution upheld is a pretty big deal. We see what's happening to the feds, and it's a flippin' disaster. They're violating things right and left, and is our living standard improving? No, it's degrading massively. If we don't step up and do this, just like Stanley said, we aren't doing anything. We passed this resolution, nothing happened for 10 years. So now we come up with the next step to nudge it off the edge and get it going. We may get our face blooded, but no pain, no gain. And if we don't do it, it's not right. It is definitely not right. It violates the Wyoming Constitution in black and white. As far as the little verbiage at the bottom of it, that was not passed by the people, therefore it is not a valid part of the Constitution. That's even that's throw in our face. We need to take the time and effort. I agree. Chip has a good point. We don't want to just go down there and bash heads. We want to go down there with a design where they cannot back off. They have to address the problem. If they change the Constitution by putting it up before the vote of the people, and the people want it, that's fine. But if not, where do we go from here?
Because I recognized him first, you right after him. Go ahead.
All right. Hi, I'll make this quick. As I listened to everybody's debates and points throughout the Rick King. Thank you. As we are a constitutional republic or representative republic, the whole idea behind that is our founding fathers had it exactly right, and now Brevard County deserves their voice. Smallest county, so if you use the same logic that I've heard used in here throughout, I got to run some quick numbers for you. Okay, we have 566,000 people in Wyoming, right now, it's about 800,000 is where you get a congressional district. Okay, are we gonna give that up? I'll go one step further, senates, okay? It would take 1,166 senators in the United States government to represent our, because we're 1/566th of the population. Okay, so if you use the math, if you use the same logic you're doing about how it's gonna grow, I don't agree with that. If we are a constitutional republic and we're following the constitution of the land, how does it stand in their constitution and not ours? And the last thing I gotta say is we have a constitution, we're gonna follow it or not. Thank you. Commissioner Thomas.
Mr. Curley, I know you're tired of discussing this, but wouldn't this resolution have the exact same teeth in it if we struck the aspect of declaring our representatives vacant and potentially nominating our own representatives? I mean, that's the sticky part that I'm on this whole thing. I like my representatives. I like them all currently.
Good question. The answer is it would not have the same fortunate effect. It most amazing, certainly wouldn't. Because if the snowball gets rolling, which maybe won't, but we hope it does, then the question is going to come up in court, what vacancies? Now, to me, I don't need that language so much. I think the fact speaks for itself. Those constitutional positions still exist because the Constitution hasn't been changed, and they're vacant. But some people aren't satisfied with mere facts. They want to, well, how do you, can you show me? How do you know? That's why I think the language on declaring the vacancy should be in there. The people who are charged by Wyoming statute with filling vacancies took basically legislative note. They made basically a legislative finding, as in your legislative function, that those constitutionally created positions are vacant. And that is something that will do people arguing for an immense amount of good in the future. It will help end one of the many hydra-headed, idiotic arguments people throw up as to why they shouldn't do the right thing. I know there's vacancies because the people charged with filling them declared it, as is their legal duty.
Really, are you done, Commissioner Todd?
Yeah.
Really quick, and then we've got to get to Michael, and then we'll bring this to the board for the vote.
I just wanted to thank you for bringing this forward and not giving up on it. And I wish more people were like you. If we had more people like you, we wouldn't have as many problems in our country. If everybody fought for what they believed in like you are, we could get a lot of things done. As a commissioner, I guess I want to just say, just as a voter and a commissioner, having your county split just doesn't seem right. You don't have to be a politician to understand that. Even as great as our representation is, somewhere along the way there is going to be something that happens that may benefit your home county or your home county, and there's going to be some decisions made that maybe aren't right or maybe are questionable, and it may not be you two that do it, but I can see that would happen. Maybe something like rare earth, something that comes along that's gonna make a county a bunch of money, and our county's split into 2 districts. Okay, so
But we want to drag our stuff to your county.
we do. We would really like to do that. But, and I can see in the future, if you let this redistricting keep going and the population centers in your state get larger, you're saying we don't have hardly any representation now. You don't have to be real smart to look forward and see them making our districts much, much larger, giving us much less representation as compared to the population areas. That could happen very easily. And so that's the reality of it, I see, as a citizen. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Michael?
Yeah, thank you. Not opposed to the idea. I think it's a good idea. First point. Second point, since we're running short on time, I'll keep this short. I largely agree with what Mr. Ryman provided. The rub that I've had on this whole thing, obviously having a duty to represent the board, is the authority to declare this vacancy. And I talked with William about that a little bit. 2218-102 does say that the board does have authority, but then 2218-101 says what conditions there must be to declare a vacancy, and I don't know what, there's nothing in 2218-101 that I can see that provides any of those conditions to say that there's a vacancy for these particular seats in the legislature. So that's my big rub on it, and I don't know if anybody has any particular comment on that, but I think that's an issue for the board. If this resolution is passed as written, how it is now, because it doesn't specify how those vacancies are open pursuant to statute that I just cited. So.
Last one.
Just one statement to Garrett's comment. What is support? I've worked on this thing since '92, and I've worked for the county commissioners since 14. But I'm a slow learner. In school, my teacher told me I had to go to the dictionary every time I had a question. So I got a lot of time at the dictionary. Support is not a noun. It's an adjective. Support is action. And that's all and every person in this room has said they support this. So that's action. So,
thank you.
Whatever you guys decide, we'll live with.
All right, what's the will of the board?
Spacer.
Weston County.
I move we approve resolution on declaring vacancies as proposed.
I second that.
I have a motion that's been properly seconded. Discussion. I call a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand with aye.
Aye.
I'm not voting, by the way. I'm voting for the board. So I have two. All those opposed?
Nay.
Honestly, I don't. I think the Constitution should be followed. I think there's going to be speed bumps in the road, but in the justification for my yes vote, I'm going to base it on the representatives that we brought in that say there's no harm in doing it to the county. I hope that's correct, but I see some issues with recognition, which I've talked about before. So I would say aye on this. Thank you. Yes.
Sorry, I'd like to now just make a brief comment.
Sure.
As a representative of the Republican Party, Carrie Drew is the chair of the Weston County Republican Party. I just want to commend our two representatives, Representative Alan Slagle and Representative Chip Nyman, for the courage that they showed today, because this decision could have ramifications on their own position, but they didn't take that that wasn't a deciding factor for them. It was doing right by the county, the Constitution, and their constituents, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for coming in. I appreciate it.
And I don't, that's what it was, you could trade.
I'm not gonna help with that.
When Sherry was here, I gave her a hug, like she's never been around. One little gal, stood on the center, powerful man, and she didn't fall on the center. No, I never had. One person.
Anything that will keep us out of I'll see yard bucket right on it.
Why don't you, why still we need to start with
Well, you know, where you there goes my chance of the personal.
Are you serious? Make it EPACON. Like J-A-C. So, you don't know this
That Kevin speaking.
Thank you.
Walter video, I never read about that.
See, when I see the big shit, I know.
Want me to give it a
Good.
Jeff?
I don't see her up there unless she got Yeah.
So, last week, we had a meeting in Sundance over the Black Hills National Forest Plan revision. It was a pretty good meeting. They brought forward a 30-page change of for revised final assessments, which was the concerns of foresters in Weston, Crook, a couple counties in South Dakota. There's one of our people.
Jeannie.
You don't need to see my face. So it was a good meeting. There was a lot of great professionals there, and it was good listening to those folks. They have knowledge that I don't have a lot to bring to the table when it comes to the forestry aspect of things. But Jeannie, you got some stuff you were wanting to visit with us about?
Yeah, hello everybody. I know Drew wasn't going to be able to attend today. She had some family stuff she had to take care of, but yeah, Senator Todd, that was exactly right. I was very, very happy with Senator. Oh, sorry.
Moving up, I guess. Down. One of the
election year, I kind of heard some rumors.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, and it's, I mean, we always hear about the forestry part of it, but recreation is huge. Probably more in your county than in ours. And just about everything, socioeconomic, how the impact, having a forest in your county impacts your bottom line, how much money you get from the forest or having the forest there, the money you get from people who are recreating and traveling through and visiting the hills and all that stuff. So I thought that was a great beginning, and we will continue having these meetings. The reason we did this is so that our groups, at least Crook and Weston, have an idea going forward of our stance, what we will accept, what we won't, and how we can influence what the forest is doing. We keep hearing that we have to wait till January 1st, 2025 before we know exactly how this is going to go. So that's, but we have to keep moving forward. We have to make sure that the forest hears our concerns and that we're gonna work together on this. I know our side, our 5 South Dakota counties, our 2 Wyoming counties are willing to go to the table and negotiate and get the best, and we'll just see if we're gonna get that from the other side. So I guess that's it. We'll just see what happens next. We will be planning more of these meetings. There is plenty of opportunities going forward for the public to weigh in. The Forest Service will be having meetings in every county, and we will press on that they meet everywhere and allow the citizens to make their voices heard too. So we're still early in the process, but we will definitely keep you informed. Drew and I report to the Weston County Commission every month, and so just stay tuned then. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Yep.
Did you want to add anything to it?
No, I think it's important we stay on top of this stuff. I mean, there's some at-risk species in the county that, because of EPA laws, we have to watch some of that stuff. And I'm not telling you that a little bat isn't important, but is it more important to some of us than our logging industry in the county and what that might have, the repercussions of a lot of that kind of stuff. And I was pretty impressed with the intelligence that was at that meeting. Even Senator Driscoll took part in the meeting, and it was great to have those people there. And there's a lot of very good people on the front line of what's happening.
And one of the things that we did reach out in areas we weren't familiar with. And so we reached out to our museum director, and I think he did a wonderful job on tribal and on cultural. Forest Service pretty much ignored all of the things that made the Black Hills what they are. You know, our lookout towers, our old towns, our settlements, you know. Besides the tribal part, there is the culture of the white settlement also. And we didn't know much about grazing, so we reached out to a citizen who's definitely involved with this, Farm Bureau and everything like that. And we really relied on their expertise. And really, if there's anybody from Weston that has seen the assessments and is willing to volunteer their knowledge, we welcome them. We can always learn more.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Thank you again, Jeannie. I appreciate it.
Okay, talk to you next month. Thank you.
Rare Earth update from Roger Conley. Welcome.
Morning. Well, I did bring a few pictures this time. I'll talk about those first. The first picture on there is you're going to see tanks, and you'll see our separation walls, pads for additional tanks. We have 3 tanks installed. This is the north side of the building, and we did move the change house back to the north side. This is our generator, which is installed and set. That's the backup generator. And inside, these pictures are the racks that the electrical cables and pipes will go on. The cables will go on this side, and the pipes will be on these over here. And there's a bunch of both. So. And that's what those pictures are. Just a few pictures. The site grading is 90% complete at this point. Probably a little more than that, but still a lot of gravel to haul in, that sort of thing. The containment area on the east side is all dug and done. As I said, the backup generators are in place. We have pumps and valves were shipped on the 25th of March. And the only reason I mention that is because this is not just a few. We're talking about a multitude of pumps and hundreds of valves. I mean, it's a complicated setup. So, concrete work was completed last week. I'm going to say it was. It was supposed to be done last week, the end of last week, or toward the end, I'm sure it was. The pipe racks are in progress, that is in the main building. Gas line installation is complete. As you can see from the pictures, there's 3 tanks in place. 4 additional tanks will arrive next Monday, the 8th, and that's the last of it. There'll be 7 tanks. So that's for new product and for recycled tanks. Wyoming fencing is supposed to start, and I assume that because of the weather yesterday and a few days of drying, that might not happen until next week, but all the perimeter fencing will be done. It's gonna be a little harder to get in and out of there after that, so. And we will have security people out there eventually, but not quite yet. The process building, which is the big building we're expanding, as I showed you or talked about last month, that pad is done for that expansion. The north and south wall will arrive on the 11th, and then the west wall will actually not arrive till May 5th. And we have 4 skids arriving on the 22nd of April. And then on the 5th, there'll be additional skids that will come in. We are still saying that we're on track to be done July 31st. We'll go through a testing phase and start processing early fall, May and September. So we'll see. We all know how construction projects go, but we actually, because of the delays we've actually caught up quite a bit on that. But they certainly have been throwing manpower on it. Believe that we will be on track. So the only other thing I will tell you that you probably have all heard, we hired a new CEO, and that's Ken Yashinsky. And you may or may not recognize that name. He was actually on the board of RER until about 4 years ago. And he left, went with a uranium company, and he's come back now as our CEO. He and president, he will also be on the board. That's kind of where we're at. Should be a lot of moving and shaking going on toward the end of the month. And things come together fast now. All these things we've been talking about have been the things that are just take a lot of time, don't show much progress. But also point out in the picture on the front page, whoever has that, this pad right here in front of those tanks, that's on the south side. That's where our loading dock is for the new product. And that's containment. It drains down into there, and we have a containment area in there. So that's done. Question?
No? Unless there's a comment, go ahead.
With all of the discussion about the different deposits of rare elements we're starting to see show up around the state of Wyoming, how is rare elements positioned to be able to, is there discussions with those folks about you guys doing processing and everything? Because that's a major part of all the expense, so.
Actually, we have been contacted about that.
Okay.
And, you know, the rest of them, it's like I said, you can make an announcement probably this afternoon that you've got rare earths all over your ranch, because you do. I mean, it's everywhere, and it's just a matter of what the quality is. So I guess, you know, we're moving forward. We have a processing plant. We're gonna have a big processing plant, which is gonna be under construction very soon after we're done with our test on this plant. We've been drilling core holes since the 90s. We have lots of core samples. We know what we have. So You know, the quality of, the others, I literally scrape up off the top of the ground because the only one that's done a core sample was Wheatland. They did 10 core holes. So once they drilled a lot in the last couple of weeks, that's all they've got. So that's not to say that they won't produce. I'm sure they will. They've got a lot, but you know, the quality is the thing. And we know what we have. You know, we have some of the richest deposits in North America. One of the very richest deposits in North America.
And I think the reason I ask is I think it's important to recognize of all the efforts that Weston County and Upton and Rail has put into this, because there's going to be, I believe, going forward, demand for that processing, and you guys have created a situation there where it looks the obvious choice would be to bring it to Upton and to a currently operating plant. So that's to me is why it's going to help us as the state move forward with the development of these resources, because we actually will have a processing facility that will be state of the art and will be available, hopefully, to be able to offer other localities mines the ability to be able to market the products. So it's good. I appreciate what you're doing.
This is the last demonstration, the last of 4 demonstration plants that we built, upscaling every time. And I've mentioned this before, and that, because you don't just go from a small pilot plant to a production plant and assume that everything's gonna upscale, right? And that's why it's come up that way. And it's been an arduous process, but it's been worth it because everything is, and we don't anticipate any issues with this one. If it does, we'll tweak them. We really fully expect to move ahead very quickly on the big processing plant. And there's a lot of things in the works. A lot of things I can't talk about right now, but there's a lot of things in the works on that plant and the mine. So the only place that you can process rare earths today is in China, or a Chinese controlled plant. I think one's North Korea. And so that process is one we gave them in the 60s, and then we promised we would never use it, compete with them. But that process requires a lot of acid, and they just dump it out on the ground over there when they're done. You get new acid. Ours recycles 98% of it. And 2% isn't really waste, it's just lost in the process. So there's a big difference between what we're doing and what that process is. And anybody that develops rare earths today has to process it into a concentrate and then ship it in barrels to China. So we eliminate that. And so there is an interest from others in our processing. So we're going to continue to talk to them.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one more question? Sure. Do you have discussions or have had any interest in finished products leaving Upton or this area? Are the materials companies looking for what you're producing and wanting to bring their manufacturing? Because what I would love to see is a finished product leaving Wyoming, not just raw material.
Ultimately, our plans call for some additional facilities to work with the process, different process element, magnets especially. I mean, that's the number one thing that's probably the most important thing that comes from rare elements. There's a lot of other things, but I mean, magnets are in everything, your phone, TV, defense contractors use a lot. And, you know, I've said it before here, but I'll let you know, the magnet in your phone, you can set on the head of a pin. It's so small. They aren't very big because they're so strong. Very strong. I mean, you are nothing, right? Did you try to pull those magnets off that metal? Didn't they succeed?
I think you couldn't.
We had 220 some people there. The magnets are about that big, and we stuck them on a piece of channel iron. There wasn't anybody big enough and strong enough to pull one off, so. They had a handle on them too, so. So it's the magnets are really a very important thing, but we are looking at down the road, and I believe that's something that we talked about way back when, to other facilities to process different components of it.
Thank you, Roger, as always, for coming in. Appreciate it.
You
very
bet.
much. Going on to Blue Cross.
It was interesting when he was removed. There's quite a few people that will remember my comments at the time because it came after Ogden, reportedly, I guess you should say, because it was reported and then he claimed that didn't happen, but we all saw the letters where he made the chairmans of the board sign that we're going to do this and that and the other thing, and we're not going to disobey. And
we're not going to disobey. I love that. I love that part. We're not going to disobey.
Pretty much. That's what I got
Yeah.
from it. Reading it is, aye, Captain, we will follow your rule. It kind of made me look a little different at Driscoll. And then this year's made
Well,
it
and you
even.
didn't just look different. Come on. You gave him a nickname even.
I gave him a nickname. He was saved in my phone still to this day as Dictator Driscoll. And I still don't feel bad about that because Weston County hasn't seen him once leading up to this session.
Going on to Blue Cross Blue Shield plan selection and plan increase.
So our insurance went up again, and so we need to decide if the county would like to pick it up again, or if we would like to split it between employees. Keep in mind, if we split it amongst the employees, it will take a decrease out of their paychecks. So it's basically cutting their wages, basically.
What's the percentage again?
So I sent it to you guys, it was a 15% increase. I can make you guys copies of these, I did email them to you, but I'll make you copies real fast. And then I'm also gonna give you, so the legislation passed where the law enforcement retirement increased 5.9%, and that will continue to increase over the next 3 years. So I did, I printed off what the current rate is, the percentages, the new rate, if it stays the same. Like, the county pays 100% of a portion, but the law enforcement has a separate portion that they have to pay. The county picks up a percentage and then the employee pays a percentage. So I showed you what the new rate is, the percentage that they'll pay if it stays the same, and the new rate if the county picks up all of that as well. So I'll make copies of these for you guys to look at.
So while she's making copies of that, there's a few of us that were here during that increase. It's kind of go over this as a group and figure out, I get Becky's point that if we take 15% in the increase and we even do half, we're still taking back the raise basically that we gave. So it's kind of puts us in a conundrum, but the other part is where do we get the funds for the increase, and how do we want to handle it? Commissioner Todd, you had some good points on that last time. How do you see that going for us? With that much of an, 15%, that's more than actually what we gave, I think.
I don't really like hearing 15%. I would like to see an actual number tied to it, but I think it's going to be a problem. I know a remedy. It's not going to be popular among this board, but until I see an actual number tied to it.
And I can't give an actual number, because what we'll do is whatever you guys decide to do, then we send it out in the employee's paycheck where they can pick the $1,500 deductible over the $2,500 deductible. And they're going to have to decide whether, you know, especially if it increases a lot, what they're gonna do.
Go ahead. Can you get an assessment based off of that, those numbers in the last?
What they chose last year.
Yeah.
I can have Amber run those right now. Like, you want, if it stays, what the
Yeah.
county pays now, or if we split it between the employees, what they would be paying
I would like to
with the
see,
increase.
yeah, what's an assessment based off of what they're currently choosing and what that costs the county. And I think we might be able to add 15% to that and maybe come up with an agreeable
Well,
number,
we have the new
right?
numbers, what they'll be, so we'll be able to run it
Okay.
and see what it'll cost.
This was a tight decision for us before, I remember, with the budget being as tight as it is, it's. Oh, sorry, yep.
I agree with Commissioner Todd. It'd be nice to see an actual number for us to make a good decision. Like you said, depending on how many are taking the $2,500 deductible and compared to the $1,500, it might not be quite as bad as we're thinking. I'm thinking a lot of people maybe take the $2,500 because it's cheaper for them. So the hit won't be quite as bad. I agree, if we take 15% more from them, then we've just taken away the raise they got a couple years ago and in this economy.
And that was one of the discussions because the legislation had passed where all employees' retirement had went up, but they were going to make the employee pay it. And that was one of the reasons the governor vetoed it, because he said, you just have put the employees' wages at a higher, you know, they're taking home more, but now you're going to deduct out of their paycheck. And so he vetoed that. The law enforcement did get theirs, but theirs is over the next 3 years to get them up higher. So, but theirs wasn't, I mean, theirs isn't a lot. That's this last page, if you want to look at it. But we do need to decide if the county's gonna pay all of that increase.
Yeah, go ahead.
Any idea what that increase is gonna, I mean, what are we paying today, numbers?
So, I can have her run that as well. The employer's portion will have to pick that up, the 9.5% from 8.6. But the county already splits the employee's portion. We already pay, so right now we pay 5.57 and they only pay the 3.03. So if we continue to pay the percentage, they would still pay their 3.48 and we would pay 6.02. If we pick up all of the increase, the employee would only pay the 3.03 and the county would go up to 6.47. If they split it, if the percentages stay, they would pay 3.48, increasing theirs by, you know, half of 9, and we would only pay the 6.02. If we pick up all of it, it's increasing us just by less than, you know, 0.9, keeping them at the 3.03.
Do we have an estimated cost for that increase? I mean, is it-
There's no way we can estimate it because theirs changes all the time because it's based on their hourly rate and it's based off the hours that they work.
do we have a total for now, how much we're paying out now, that we could just kind of
For
do
them,
it,
like off of a,
15.
just like per month,
Yeah.
maybe?
that we could estimate a 15% increase? Would that, am I making
Well,
sense?
that's, I mean,
Okay.
I would estimate higher as opposed to lower, but an exact number, like Commissioner Todd was saying, would be nice. I just, how do we come to that?
You know what's really wonderful about this? Is every year we have to do this 2 months before the stinking budget. It's so aggravating to me.
Yes.
You never know. I mean, you almost ought to put a 5% cushion in there every year, knowing that this could change. I mean, sometimes it has gone down in the past, but it seems like every year I've been here, it's gone up. Pretty
But actually, might
consistent.
not be a bad idea. I mean, doing that every, because you're right, and the chances of it going down, and that's one.
So right now, for just the month, for the law enforcement, we paid $3,245.54 for March. So, I mean, it's gonna be a couple months before it picks up because it doesn't go into effect until July 1st. And it's gonna be a wonky one because they're paid, their timesheets are gonna be split, so half of the month is gonna be on the old percentage rate, and the other half will be on the new percentage rate. But even if we just take the 3,245.54, and if we picked up all of the .9,
Be about $320.
if we picked it all up per month.
$4,000 roughly. That's just on
That's
Versus
monthly.
law enforcement.
That's monthly, right?
$320 a month.
Oh.
how many employees is that roughly, you know, Becky?
Law enforcement,
Yeah.
I think there's about 10. I'll have to see, because I don't think Homeland Security falls under that. But I'm pretty sure there's 10, 9 or 10 over there.
$30 a month roughly.
Oh,
If we're
hello.
fully staffed, you're more around 17. Because we only have 3 detention officers.
Yeah, right, because I mean, I sent 10 handbooks over there.
So total 17 and 14.
Correct.
So total 17, so 3 detention, 14. Go ahead, Tom.
The county share roughly $3,250 a month is what we're paying.
But that we pay regardless.
Yeah, that's what we're paying right now,
Right.
which comes out to roughly $39,000 a year. If you had 9.5% on that, bumps it up another $3,700. The county's portion, if we would pick up the whole 9.5%.
Well, okay, so there's 2 different portions. The employer portion, ours went up 9.5, or to 9.5 from 8.6 regardless. That one we have to pay the increase
Yeah.
regardless. Then the employee portion, the county has always picked up 5.5% of that, and we paid 3.03, or they paid 3.03. I'm wanting to know if the county wants to pick up the whole 0.9% increase, and then the employee only still pay their 3.03, or if we want to split that 0.9 increase, and those guys pay 3.48%, and the county only pays 6.02% of the employee portion. So there's still a 9.5% increase on the employee portion as well. I just need to know how you guys want it
So
split.
in other words, if we pick it all up, we would basically be
So
$7,500 more per year.
total, we would be 9.5 on the employer's portion and 6.47 on the employee portion.
Okay, Brian, what effect does this have on our dispatch bunch? Do they qualify for, they do?
Not for long.
Yeah,
they
They do,
But that's under joint powers, and
Yeah,
that doesn't
but
come
it's-
out of this.
but it's still gonna cost us more money. I mean, end of the day, but
Well,
it'll be line item differently, but it's.
unless, because we have budgeted extra. Right, Brian? We budgeted more than what was used last year, so for a while, we should be okay.
Yeah, we'll have to figure all those numbers out. for
Yeah,
sure.
and they'll have to do that beforehand, and they'll come to us or through Brian, and
Look at the three entities.
So no idea yet on the insurance
Amber's
side.
still working on
Anyway, we could
You wanna-
come bring this back.
Yeah, we can we'll put it
Right.
under old business, can we do
Yeah.
that?
I'll send you an email about that.
Next is the fairgrounds. Dave, you wanna-
Morning.
Morning.
Got a couple really quick things here. We found a few things that we can't buy locally. We've got a little one here, so the big ones, you can't find those are. There's just a few items that I'd like to use press for. Let's get yours back. Okay, what we have here is the bids on the walls and the event center. The top half, the east half is the site that's fallen down. Not the whole east half, but a big portion of it. We got some bids here for a concrete, a block wall that's filled in. We got concrete, poured concrete, and we also have the concrete blocks. This is yours here when we're done.
Okay.
There's the bids and some photos of what they, they probably look like. Anyway, the top half is just the east half. The bottom half is the whole wall, all the way through. These bids all have kind of like a French drain. French drain do us no good if we didn't do the whole thing. The other thing that came up is possibly make the wall a little bit higher, so we have more slope to bring it back away from the track. Then we wouldn't have a water issue in there. Okay, so you guys can take a look at that. Then on the bottom of that, we got the event center. Everybody knows we got a leak in the roof. We got a couple of them. This bid here is for replacing the little door. It's replacing 310 on the top, patching the roof and stuff like that. I disagree with part of the bid. I don't think caulking the roof is the issue. I don't know why we don't. I'm assuming we could probably run that or have an insurance adjuster come take a look at it. Maybe we run it through insurance, but their bid is to do caulking on some of the tin that went bad on the center. So anyway, I just wanted to give you guys that to take a look at what we've got so far.
I'll pass this down to the other commissioners, but you're gonna have to spell that out. We can't just put miscellaneous items to fix various things for that amount. You see what I'm saying? It's gotta be broke down.
We can have it broken down.
All right.
That's just some of the little things.
Oh, I get it. It's gotta be specific so that we know what we're looking at.
Okay, for your information, the last crow's nest has been put in the indoor arena. It doesn't have electricity in it yet. Looks great. We've got great view all the way through. We've had great comments on the arena itself. Curtis Rankin done all the welding for the Friends of Fair on all of that, done an awesome job. We don't know what we wanted to do with the old crow's nest, whether we tear it apart and junk it or what we do. Curtis has requested or asked if there was some way we could give it to the Upton Rodeo grounds up there to use as an announcing stand. They would love to have it. And if we ever needed it back down this direction for whatever purpose, I don't ever see us needing it again, we could bring it back down and use it if we had to in the past. The board sees no reason for us really to keep it. And if someone wants it, you better do that than just to tear it apart and sort of their way.
Can it be moved as a whole unit?
Yeah, it's a portable one.
Okay. Oh, you're talking one on wheels?
Yeah.
Our old portable?
The old
Okay,
portable
yeah.
one, yes. Yes, the old portable one. They don't have anything up there, and they would love to have it. And the board's already agreed, we don't see any reason for keeping it if we have access to it in the future.
When you got these bids, and I'm just kind of, I'm sure the other commissioners may ask too, but the east half wall bids, did we do specs on how to bid that? Because there's a big, you're from 40,000 to 110 for the same.
Well, that 110 is way.
We have 128,000 one too.
Yeah, where's it?
Just wondering why the big difference.
I think the bids they have should spell it out. On some of these, there's a French drain that's put behind them. I'd have to even look at. We did put them out. Some of them, they wanted to go with a higher wall and flow the water back. Like I said, if we don't do the whole thing, then we're going to have to put the French drain won't work. We'll have to build it a little bit higher and get that water to flow from the wall back toward the area.
I'm just, did we do a spec on this on how, for example, you guys wanted it or what we recommend for long term? I just want to make sure that our bids.
What we went in there for, like I'll use Bucky's out there. He was the first one to give us the bid.
Are you raising your hand?
It's the excavating of the stuff, putting it back together, a footing, stacking the blocks, putting it all together, and putting the French drain in is what they had. They pretty much, that's kind of what we run off was Bucky's, the very first one. And the poured ones, like I say, the footing's a little bit different than the big blocks, the stacked blocks and stuff like that. And so hopefully that the bids that we have here kind of spell it out. They're really different, completely different walls. I know the big blocks would be the best looking, but we can, it's definitely the poured ones.
I was gonna say, to answer your question, Mr. Taylor, that the highest bid there is skewed, but it was spec'd the way I asked for it to be
Okay,
spec'd.
that's what I was wondering.
And their price was just that much more than everybody else.
Okay, so we asked for the spec. I just
Right,
didn't-
yeah, I asked for a replacement wall and they gave me the replacement, and that's the cost on that, and that was out of Gillette, a big company out of Gillette.
Thanks, man. Right.
David, the roof repair, is that damaging the drywall?
It's more in the ceiling than it is in the walls. Right now there's a little bit right as you go inside the door.
Just as you
And
walk
then
in
as
the
you walk
doorway, it
down
leaks
the hallway
in
to
the
the
hallway.
kitchen, that's where the leak, and the last time we had an event in rain, someone went in the kitchen, got a pan and stuck underneath it.
So that, just fix that leak alone.
Well,
Is the,
they came in and to fix the roof and replace,
all of this listed here.
Yeah, they were gonna replace the door, fix the tin in the front. There's 3 sheets of tin you replaced, fix the roof. Did they have anything with the doors?
No,
Okay.
just
No,
the kitchen
no,
door.
Just the kitchen door. And that's, to me, it seems awful high, but I think the bid, when you look at it, shows that they're caulking, or they're, I believe it's in there, right?
They've got there's 3 or 4 bids on one piece of paper. It was it's the one out of Gillette.
This and its builders?
Yes.
That's the very first one.
And then secondarily, I think that as far as your, I don't know if this board wants to tell you what to do with your, with that stand that you're thinking about donating one. And I don't have any issue with you guys as a board making that decision and then get something in paper, because we've had this issue in the past, where we end up with county equipment and somewhere else, and all of a sudden it's magically their stuff.
Right.
And this stuff gets either lost, which I get it, but I mean, if you want it back eventually someday, I would get it on paper if that's what your board wants to do.
Yeah. I mean, the only other thing we could do, the only thing we could even think of doing is somewhere along the line, we just dismantle it and throw it away, because I really don't think we'll ever use it again. But if someone else has got use for it, we can get something in writing and go from there.
The roof is metal roof.
Yes, it's a metal roof.
Have we ever had it inspected for, the screws and gaskets being needed to be redone?
When we replaced, when they went up the first time I looked at it, everything looked good. Personally, I think what the issue was when it settled and they brought it back up, they may have kinked, tin gets kinked just a little bit, it wears rust into it real quick. I mean, it starts rusting really quick. I don't know if that's the issue or what, but we've had a little bit of a leak for a while. I have not been up on the roof and looked at it myself.
I got up there a month or so ago, and it's been caulked. It looks like it's been caulked post-construction once already. And we still have the leak.
I think the caulking fixed it for a little bit, but it's not a permanent fix if you just caulk it. I don't believe. But that's a big roof. So, are we okay, as far as the portable crow's nest, we can go ahead and talk to them and draw something up if we decide we want to have something back?
I think, go ahead.
You're a board man. If you think it's trash, I think you have the authority to
We
throw
just
it away.
take it off the record.
Yeah, if you think it's valuable, I would get something on paper and then do whatever you guys think's right.
Okay. Sounds great. And we need that filled out a little bit more.
You have to break that down.
Yes.
Okay.
We can break it down.
In your opinion on the bids that we got in for the wall repair, either in half or in whole, what do you feel as a fair board you would like to do? What are you leaning towards? I mean, obviously there's a dollar amount difference, but
Pouring is gonna be our quickest and cheapest. And it would probably look okay. And there's no doubt the big blocks are gonna be the best looking as far as looking into the grandstands and stuff like that. That's the big thing. It's just such a wide number cost there. And right now there is a small chunk that is block. There's a small chunk in it that must have came down before, and there is a small chunk in it that is cement block that's filled. But, I think anything would probably, it'll work for us. We can make anything work. As a board, I don't think we never really talked about which way we wanted to pursue it.
the price difference between the two cords, this one includes the French drain, is that what the difference is?
Did that?
They both have.
They both have
What?
Yes.
What is the 238?
That's the extremely skewed one.
That's the one from Gillette.
And if you notice the other, then you had the least expensive one there is the block, port block. The other three are big block and poured, so they're closer on the same ballpark, more or less.
You're saying the concrete filled block, you're talking regular cinder blocks with concrete.
Yeah, that's the first bid.
Yeah, he's got a reinforced, and then he fills it.
And yeah, like what you have behind your house, Mr. Wagner. Big 2x4 blocks.
And all the blocks have to be shipped in, that this stuff, this pros out here, they can't do that. But anyway, that's kind of an idea what we have. There's, as to why we can sit down and talk about it next week on what we prefer. But I think it's, honestly, listen, money's gonna be a big issue. I think we need to get the wall, whatever wall, we can make it work. But money, is the way everybody's talking, is the issue.
Well, I'm noticing that the wall itself has failed probably mostly because of the erosion.
I think what we have is the water comes down, got down below it. And, we just had a bunch of rain and it just eventually just caved in.
Right.
And there's really no footings on it. Those rocks were just laid on dirt. There is no footings on it.
And that issue was taken into consideration with the bid?
Yeah, there's footings on everything there as far as the bid goes.
David, that wall in front of the grandstands was repaired and replaced years ago, right? So is is the whole section in front of the grandstand, not the whole section in front of the
There's
grandstand?
There's two patches.
In front of the grandstand.
It
Looks like there used to be a set of stairs that may have gone down. That's been blocked. And then another portion 5 feet away from it has been patched. And they're both, I think both of those patches are about 10 feet long.
And I'm just spitballing here, maybe this is a dumb idea, but is there any way to get rid of the rest of the wall on both sides and do like a rock? Grade that back and just put a big rock in there or something to not have the wall on the rest of it?
Decorative slope.
Yeah.
Someone else had mentioned that idea possibly. The problem we have right now is that the water runs towards the track.
Yeah, and I think without raising that wall or a French drain, you're still gonna have.
Right, you're gonna have that same problem.
And I was just curious, with beveling that back, if it could be, there could be a hump or something, I don't.
And, and the only thing it would probably hinder right at the moment was we kind of got handicap parking in 2 areas. And I don't know how much further to lay it back to do something like that. There definitely, we'd have to put a fence in, kind of like what we have right now in there and lay it back. That's a possibility.
Commissioner Todd, I'd welcome your opinion. I brought this up before. When I worked with Whiteout, we used the Gabion walls, and I believe I brought this up before. Gabion walls are baskets that they fill with stone. One, it keeps the rocks contained. They're baskets, and you can get them in various sizes. Water can run through them because they're not blocked. We used them up near the lodge up here on 85, and we had an erosion problem that was really bad. We used those Gabion walls, and they were pennies compared to these concrete pours. I don't know how aesthetically, but you'll see them under bridges and stuff. They held very well for that, and like I said, you get the basket, and then we fill it full of rock, various size. You could use gravel, you could use bigger size rock, whatever would be honestly the cheapest. And they did not move, and to this date, it was 7 or 8 years ago. Then that road has not eroded since. So maybe that's a possibility if someone wants to look at it. But I would suggest that for that erosion, because you could stack that in stacks of 2 and almost stair step it down and have minimal erosion at pennies on the dollar compared to pouring concrete block.
And he is true. They use them at the mine, and they got some at their truck dumps. They got some very, very high walls. I'd say 200 foot, and that's what they have is the Gabion baskets, and they fill with rock. Now, how they tie them back, I'm not for sure.
It's just wire, this metal wire. They tie them in. They could do them as deep as you wanted to and as high as you wanted to, just based on your height. But with that, maybe 3 high. Looking at it, maybe 3 high and stair stepping it down to those lower grades on the ends. We would save a ton of money.
I guess it's just a matter of, we came to you with what we were just trying to repair or replace what we had. So if you guys want a redesign of something, then we can certainly.
It's
look
not a
at-
redesign.
Well, no, I
Just
mean, as far as
replace right where-
reconfiguring how much of the wall is wall and how much is different, then we'd have to look into that and of course see how they'll plan that.
They do hold, I mean, they will work, but they're not as pleasant to look at. I mean, you will see wire, you will, in rock inside of it, you will see that, but they do hold. And you go over it in Washington and stuff like that, these mountain roads go in there, they got them all the way up the roads. I mean, they do have them, and they do work.
Really, from where you see it.
That's right. If you're in the grandstand, you won't see it.
But if you're riding bulls, you might.
Yeah, that's right. So.
I don't think.
I'm
not sure the people riding bulls are gonna care.
They probably won't. It's just, it's a cosmetic thing, to be honest with you, as far as that goes, so. But that's kind of where we're at. We looked at the 3 different rocks, those are the people to give us the bids. And like I say, to me, they are expensive. Money's gonna be the issue.
Yeah, we welcome any ideas.
And we can look to see the baskets cost.
Yeah, you're gonna find literally.
I know they're pennies to the dollar.
Got your belly.
The other thing that helps is that the rock you put in it can be, colored, whatever, and that helps the aesthetic value of it as well. But that solution was right across from the lodge there. Anyone looks at that whole side of the road was caving off. We have had zero erosion out there since we put those in 7 years ago. Nothing as a road.
But we can look into that, we can make a phone call or something on that, because I know they'll tell you how many yards of rock goes in, so.
Yep.
It'd be pretty easy, yeah.
Just a suggestion.
Anyway, that's the packet. You guys can look through the bids to what we have, because their scope of works, they're the experts at it, not us. Okay, I think that's everything. Thanks.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
See you, David.
The CRIP project, we're gonna take about a 5-minute recess because Commissioner. Okay, we'll reconvene. Moving on with the CRIP project discussion. Let's start that off. Then we proposed, we were gonna bring some ideas, maybe we had talked earlier in the week, but I'll let you start it off. Go ahead, or Nathan, do you want to start it off? I wasn't here last week, so I was just guessing.
I don't really have one say on it. I mean, it's $1 million road if we pave it. If it's a $100,000 road if we do full depth FDR it, and we have another $900,000 sitting around. I guess that's a decision that needs to be made.
1.3 million right now.
And
1.3. And that's if we do it what year?
Yeah, that's what's going to increase is that's, I can't remember what the proposed year, 27. I think.
27.
maybe.
Maybe. Well, thank you for coming. I think it's come back up in our minds to let you know, because of the increase in cost, as it's put off every year, the amount that we're going to be on the hook for is increasing a lot. And so, being fiscally responsible, we really have to look at that. The budget's getting tighter and tighter, the money's getting shorter,
And this bill's growing and we don't even know when it's gonna be done yet, realistically.
Well, I think the increase is what, approximately 600,000. For me, it's
Another double-edged sword too, if it is state. It could cause increased costs and different types of equipment, and different set skills, and
the maintenance for that road, I think, is also gonna require, we talked about sealing. I don't know if you say it every 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or maybe chip sealing to protect the integrity of the road. So there is maintenance involved with a paved road too. So, yeah, I mean, those are all things that we talked about yesterday when we talked. So, I don't know. Go ahead.
What is a mile of a good mag chloride road cost to do? I mean, will we go in and open it up and mix it all in and
Just
pack
for
it
the
back?
product, I think it's about 10,000 miles.
10,000 miles, just for the product.
For the truck,
Hold on 1 second now.
What do you, like for your equipment to do a mile to come in, what do you, expense wise? For having the blades out there and tearing it up and doing it? Or would even, if that was an option, would you even want your crew to do it, would you just want to contract it out?
To mag it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've done in the past, and we've had larger crews.
Yeah. But at this point in time, would it be better just to put it out for bids and get the whole thing done contractor wise? Since you're short staffed.
It kind of depends on the area, to be honest with you. I mean, if we're close to water, it's.
Okay. I thought.
Go ahead.
My question is, and I'm lost here, and I'm sorry. Okay, originally, when we were here 2 years ago visiting with you guys, from city limits on out to Greenhouse Road, that road was going to be resurfaced. Okay, that's what you were gonna do. Okay, and then from Stiff Wrecking Yard clear to 85, that was gonna be ground up and relayed. What are you talking about doing now? Are you gonna think about resurfacing from city limits to Highway 16 on Greenhouse Road in that? Or are you just talking from Stiff up to 85 and over that bridge? Because on the one side of the bridge, it's not so tore up, it's not so bad. But you come on in front of Stiffs, and in there, it's absolutely terrible. So I'm trying to get a picture here on what it is you're thinking or talking about doing, period. I mean, irregardless on the bridge, whether you do that, I know that's millions. I can read that and that kind of stuff. But this road needs help now. Okay, I live out there. The thing of it is, on Old Highway 85 now, the GPS is sending those people over that bridge and onto that road. Well, if you've got a $3,000 or $300,000 motorhome, you're going on that road and you hit some of that. I mean, you're not gonna be happy. The camper might, if you don't have it hooked up good, pop right off the back of your pickup. So I guess what I'm saying, you're talking about money, money, money. Yeah, but meanwhile, us living out there on that road and that hole, thank you all for getting that hole fixed. Okay, if you've been out there lately, there's more of those holes that are coming. So you can kick it down the road, but I mean, we're not getting anywhere kicking it down the road.
we're not kicking it down the road. Right now is a decision on, there were some changes that were talked about, and the decision is being on extending the actual pavement instead of just doing that what you're talking about is FDR, they call it FDR.
Yeah, putting the cement in the ground up pavement.
Yeah, something similar to that, and then they'll mag it, and so it's not kicking the can down the road. It's still gonna be done, like the money that we've spent so far on engineering isn't wasted. I mean, it's in the process still. It's been moving forward since we started. The problem is we are one of however many in a bucket, and we're probably on a list, not in a bucket. And as they have funds for that, they're working down this list, and so.
But what year?
I think in the next year, you'll probably see action out there, I would assume. I don't.
24.
Don't hold, no, and maybe, don't hold me to that, but they kicked us back this year, wasn't it? Because they were short on funds? I mean, there's not a lot I can do about it. I mean, short of the county footing the whole bill on it. I mean, that CRIP project, that's a lot of state funds that get put into that isn't coming out of our coffers.
Okay, now what if they never do anything about, I thought the way they talked before, the bridge and the road were kind of tied in together. When they did one, they would do the other. Everything's, equipment's there, they would do the other. Okay, if you're talking that bridge, not doing anything with it till 28, if they do anything then, money's tight. I mean, we can all see that. Okay, do you expect that road to stay for, say,
They're independent of each other.
in 26?
Two different projects.
In one of their articles that the highway department had out, in 26, there was absolutely nothing going to be done in Weston County by WYDOT funds. Okay, this is 24. There's another, they say, oh, we'll finally do it in 28. That road is the absolute pits right now. What in the hell is it going to be by even 25?
I'm not discounting your concerns. I get it.
I'd invite you all to go out and just drive over it.
Yeah, go,
On the end
see
of the-
yourself. Don't
Slow
take the
down
gas
and get
speed vehicle
brakes.
either.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd also invite you just sometime to just sit on the top of the hill and watch the traffic, because it will blow your mind. I suggest that you start on Memorial Day weekend. We've had fires start because of the road. We have a trash problem. The increase because people are skipping the town of Newcastle because of GPS. Somewhere along the line, that has to be solved, and I know that we've asked DOT on several occasions to take us off of the GPS, somehow get that done. But one of the things you really need to consider is reducing the traffic on there, and maybe even you guys putting a traffic study out there, because the speed limit needs to be done too. I think you'd be very interested to know how many people hit that corner at an awful speed. And we can hear them. And thank you for on the road and bridge for filling in the
Yes.
on the east side, even the east side. I mean, the west side's good, but the east side, they bottom out. And I'm waiting for somebody to fly over it. So regardless of what the board chooses to do with that road, I think there's some other issues that need to be addressed, and one of them is reducing the traffic count on that road. It does not need to have, and there's an economic downturn because they are skipping Newcastle. They're skipping our gas stations, they're skipping our restaurants. Make them go to the floor.
Question for you. Do you think that if we pave it, then won't that kind of encourage increased traffic? Because then, I mean, some of those areas, by the way, they need to be dug up and a new base be put down. You've got culverts that are up and down. But do you think that is gonna increase traffic by paving it instead of graveling it?
I think if you don't have those other things in place, I think you've had it, of course. I mean, you make something better, then we have more confidence in it and we're gonna go faster. I mean, and especially out of state people. I fully understand that. But I also understand the other argument of the life of the road.
Right.
But my comment was just mostly for you to understand the absolute incredible, and the stuff that comes with it. You know, if I've seen one dirty diaper, I've seen enough. I'm sorry.
Just a moment in history. The reason that the Highway 85 cut across from old highway to new highway pavement is staying a little better is because many years ago there was some terrible rutting done by the railroad into that section. And they were requested by the county to come back. It was even before my time, or about my, it was when I was county commissioner, we're talking about. So they poured that plumb full of asphalt. Some of that asphalt in there is probably 18 inches thick. And so it got a recoating when none of it did. And the reason that the rest of the highway has lasted so long, thankfully to Joni Cashelhoffer, when she was with DOT, they crack sealed that entire road free of charge for the county. They ended up with some crack sealed material left over, had overfigured the job someplace, and they come in and you can see where they crack sealed it. It has made it last longer than it would have lasted because it was coming apart at that time. And she gave that road 10, 15 years of life that it didn't have.
Another question that I was hoping when you guys ground up that pavement or whatever you did, when is that landfill, the new landfill, going to open? I was hoping that that would help if you resurface that road, whatever you end up doing. Cut down on the traffic that comes out on old Highway 85 from people going to the dump. And the Erdmans are going to find out when you do open that new landfill that if you think you got litter now, wait. And the wind out there, people do not realize the wind out there. Well, you get out there and your load is not covered very well, and there it goes. Now, there are some people who are very considerate about going back and picking up that trash. Well, you got more people who do not. Or they find a ditch there because they've been to the landfill, it was closed, they didn't go during operating hours. They're gonna throw it in that ditch and they don't care what ditch it is.
Carcasses too, we get a lot of carcasses.
Yep, carcasses, yep.
Well, landfill will be opening this summer.
Yay.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, this summer landfill will be opening. They are, while you're here, I'll give you an update. They started pouring concrete footers for our building and scales this week.
And you'll enforce the cover rule?
We are planning on having some kind of if your load is not secured, there'll be additional fees. Put some penalties on it if they're not secured. You can say tarp, some people can tarp it and everything's gonna blow off. Some people can secure it with their garbage and it will not come off, so.
Right.
Yeah, that will be addressed at the new landfill.
Jim,
Yeah, I did schedule a traffic study. I think you were still commissioner when you guys asked for that. I'm waiting on about 4 of them from them right now, so.
Well, I appreciate it, thank you, because you just never know, you don't see it, you can see it.
So really, it's still up in the air as to what's gonna happen out there.
Not really. I mean, it's in the process. What's up in the air is the final product on top of the road right now. And that's just what needs to be decided is how we finish the final top of the road. But it is in the works. Whether that's 6 months from now or a year from now, I mean, hopefully Jimmy can do what he can to maintain until we get there.
I guess, there's a couple spots out there, if folks that live out there are happy with it. If we could do like we did it by the bridge, so cut some of them out. I know that piece there, Tom's Herbs, that's not terrible anymore. If we could cut those out, or gravel in there temporarily. I think we could do a whole lot better than what's there.
Well, and I think the other part of that is that if it's an extended amount of time, then the cost will go up again. So that's going to affect how we decide what the final product is. So they're not done. I mean, they haven't said that's it. That's the total cost. They've said it's going to go up. I'm sorry.
Isn't a county road improvement project way back when? Now, the projects do change requirements. Is it the state trade or something? And the only thing the state's got to trade you is the road into Osage.
They already traded.
We took the road out to town.
They took the.
Road into Osage?
451.
No, 451.
No, oh, okay, all right.
We took 450.
I thought they were after another trade, and I thought the only road there is to trade is.
County already took 450.
It was that one or Old Highway 16 in
Yep.
Osage.
Yep.
Yeah.
We did 451.
No, she mentioned.
No, she's.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I talked to Joyce the other day, and she mentioned, that she thought there used to be some weight limit signs on the bridge.
There is.
Is there still weight limit signs on the bridge, or are they gone?
We're still there.
They're still there. Is there, in the meantime, because we're waiting, and I think you understand, we're waiting too, on this construction, I think we need to really step up and really push DOT about this GPS thing and do anything we can to slow down that traffic. Jim can fix those, put gravel on those spots a lot, but the more traffic, the more he's gonna be out there fixing them, and the more they're gonna suffer even if you try to fix them. So maybe we need to get a hold of DOT and really push this GPS thing. Can we put signs up that says no through traffic or local traffic only, something like that?
Well, we've actually signed a contract with them. They started that to where counties can now shut traffic off on roads. You know, we can actually call in for weather events and close roads just like YDOT does. And I think you were here, Google was in on a meeting with YDOT, and they were supposed to, completely eliminate that out of their maps. I don't know why that hasn't been done, but it obviously hasn't.
In the meantime, is there a sign that we could put up to at least discourage, I know not everybody can read, but discourage some people from using it?
A big one that says toll road.
Toll road. Could we make this a toll road? and
They'll be able to
fix
read
all the
that.
problems right there?
So can you get a hold of, Guy Phillips here in town at the YDOT shop and just have him put up signs that says, your GPS is wrong, do not take this road?
Problem is you're asking to put something out on the highway that, I don't know if the highway department would let something like that fly. That's, I mean,
we can ask him to ask
Yeah.
Taylor.
Or do we have the authority as a county to put it in just a little bit?
We can't put signs on the highway right away.
But further in, on our right of way.
Trouble
On
is,
Mr.
they'll turn
Urban's right
around.
away.
If they do, they have no place to turn around.
Oh, there's really nowhere to
We
turn.
worked with the bridge, we actually had to post them, some people up north end came around and came up to the bridge anyway.
Yeah, if you could even put no through traffic. There'd be something.
It would stop, if I was a stranger and it said no through traffic, I would at least think about it, especially if I had a big camper. Or
I would even love it if you put lied and said dead end, no turnaround. But,
No turnaround.
really, because it would really help if it was on both ends, dead end, no turnaround. I know we're lying, but sometimes we'll have to ask for forgiveness.
Something to slow down the traffic until we get to the point where they're ready to do this project.
And once that traffic study is done, then you can actually set it up with speed limit up there. It's enforceable. Traffic study.
Is the proposed other surface other than pavement, what happened on Fairgrounds Road? So how do you think that's held up in the last couple of years, Jimmy?
Good, excellent so far. I don't know how long that lasts, and every time you've got to go in and rework it, then you lose part of your load and all of it just becomes gravel. So far, it's been great.
Thank you.
Anything else? How do we want to leave this?
we do have authority to establish toll roads, just saying. Your county people, you can charge a heck of a lot less than the next person driving down the highway. They don't want to use it.
Can I have it on my approach when I turn around?
Yeah. But I don't know. At some juncture, we need to, before too long, because we need to make a decision what we surface the road with. Whether it's today or 2 weeks from now, but I think the engineering isn't wasted that's been done at this point, but it is on hold. waiting on us to make that decision.
So we'll put this back on the agenda, we'll talk about it again at the next meeting and give us some time to stew on it a little bit, and we probably need to make a decision.
Yeah, I mean, we really do. And when I say it's on hold, it's kind of a moot point anyways, because they hadn't even got to us yet. So the part that's been done would have been done anyways. So, I mean, it still may be 6 months before they get to us, but we need to make the decision prior to them getting to us.
Has the decision been made to replace the bridge? Because the rest of us would be new.
Yes. And the only thing I'll say there is that the only stuff they were gonna do to the road that I'm familiar with, correct me if I'm wrong, is that they may need to widen the road on each end of that bridge. The new bridge is wider. But that was the only cost, and that was on us for that, I believe. But widening is the only issue. Go ahead.
Speaking about that, have you heard anything on, what's your thoughts on that until after that bridge is finished? I mean, if we go down the road of gifting that back, I guess, if that's what we decide to do, could it wait until that bridge is finished, and so we have a little landing area by the bridge to,
Well,
or would you look for monetary?
No, I'm not looking for anything monetary for that easement. If the map is correct, like we discussed last time, I have no idea. That's the map I was given.
And we haven't heard anything.
So I did hear from the state, and the county does have that easement that it was showing as, because Kara said she doesn't have easements. So the easement from the state, the county does have that, and I have that information in my office. I am waiting to hear back from them to see if the reason it was wider has anything to do with the bridge. I'm waiting to hear back from them because they said it may be because it comes up to the bridge. The gentleman who works on that, on the easements, has been out of town. So I'm just waiting to hear back from them on that.
So, could I get a copy of that, and the assessor get a copy of that?
I gave it to the assessor, so I'll get you a copy of those.
I'd just soon not be paying taxes on that. My intention, more taxes on that. What I would like to suggest is if you consider narrowing that easement on the cut across that I initially talked about last time, is that when we come closer to the bridge, it is widened back up. Because you're going to need the extra easement for that bridge replacement, the width for the bridge replacement. And then they had also asked me for a small piece of ground, borrow ground, there by the bridge, which I'm willing to, so if that's the plan, to go ahead and replace the bridge, to give you or them as borrow. And then when the bridge was done, they suggested to put the fence back where it is now.
You confuse me, Ted, maybe. So
You should live with them.
So, when the bridge is completed, you want the easement to be back to the wider?
No, just by the bridge, because of
Like
the
a
top of the
200-foot
bridge.
section or something?
Yeah, a short section, maybe from that intersection to where the rise starts to the bridge, the intersection to the bridge, to be wider, because you're going to have a wider fill in there, because you got a wider top bridge.
Yeah. It's gonna have a bigger.
It's gonna have a bigger
for
footprint
bigger
than it does
vehicles coming down it.
Yeah, contrary to what we were just talking about.
But I also suggest when that happens, I haven't seen the paperwork, and I have no doubt that it's there. Well, that's part we was missing. Why it was never recorded here, I don't know. Or wasn't picked up here, I don't know. Is that somehow or another, maybe the commissioners, myself, and the railroad get together, because they have a footprint. They have used the county right-of-way as a road without the county's permission and without mine.
2 sides.
2 sides.
They're accessing down either
both
side,
ways.
yeah.
Well, the other side, plus, if that map was right, that notch in there, on both sides of that road on the west side would have been on mine. And I never got permission for that. But I have no gripes about the railroad. It's just that they go off the side of that bridge, and I've watched them do that. They created damage where they didn't need to create, and a safety deal running them pickups up and down the side of that bridge. I haven't seen it for a while. They got shut down on that somehow or another, but they were. You can see the tracks just plain as day from my house, where they went up the side of that right away and come out right at the abutment of the bridge.
Thank you. And part of the question too is what, as you were saying, it's 250 on the west side of the bridge. As you go to the east side, it changes from 50 to 75. And that's an odd disparity of what's the necessary reason for being on the west side. You get 150, get 125 on one side and only 50 on the other. And it may be geographical, but it's not going to be advantageous on either way. So it'd be nice to have some type of bringing it back in.
Yeah, unless the state comes up with some real good argument for why it exists. I don't know why I certainly wouldn't want it through the county road on my ranch, so.
It's huge.
Yeah.
That's something we need to, when this moves forward, that bridge moves forward, is on the easements, is get that stuff all cleaned up at the time.
I agree. Whatever it takes, I'm willing to clean it up. I'm not asking anything for the easement. I just, let's clean it up for our future. Whatever it works out, let's get it cleaned up.
It might also be good in there too, to have specified out what the railroad portion of it is too, for their easement to access under there. Get it all in black and white at the time when we're doing it.
Anything else? Appreciate the comments coming in, and we'll put this back on the agenda next meeting, or do you wanna, how long, just another meeting, or you wanna put it
I
out?
think we need to make a decision.
So we'll put it on the next meeting.
Don't you? I don't. I don't think it's gonna be a real contentious thing. I think it's just a matter of, well, it might be contentious depending on what we decide, but I think that it needs to be decided so that they can move forward and not have to wait on us in the event that they are.
Right, moving on to introduction of new victim witness coordinator. Thank you.
Yeah, let me go get
Is it Kleenex here? Huh?
Everything's contentious. Ad hominem attacks.
I don't know about that. Is there Kleenex here? Thank you.
Hello, I just wanted to give some information to the board here. This is Jewel Parrish.
Hi, Jewel.
She will be our victim witness coordinator for the remainder of this fiscal year. We have submitted the grant for 2025, 2026, and we're awaiting on what kind of funding we're going to get from state and feds for the next couple of years, and we're hoping to get a lot more than we had before, so we can had a lot of issues because the amount we got was right at, we couldn't have a full-time benefit of person with the insurance costs. Hopefully we can get that covered. We have enough funds left for this year because this is the third person I brought in now to cover the remainder of the fiscal year. So we have that for the next 3 months, so she can work full-time and help us out. I think everything's been going pretty smooth on your end, hasn't it, Becky, as far as reimbursements go and whatnot. So Joel has done this type of work before in, what county in Montana?
Valley County, northeastern Montana.
Valley County, Montana. So, anything you want to add to the situation? Comments?
No, just as a volunteer and helping out with the grant, I've seen how much this program has grown from the last grant to this grant. So I think we put together a pretty good grant to be able to get that extra funding to pay for benefits and all of that with it, as well as get some of our policies and procedures in place. We have a desk review coming up in the next couple months through the division, through Wyoming, and just kind of hit the ground running. This is my work. I ran a 6-county program in northeastern Montana when that was victim services and child advocacy. So I'm excited to put my knowledge to use.
All right, any questions for Jewel or myself?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
I do have something I'd like to pass out. So it's Child Abuse Prevention Month. And as part of this job and as a full-time person, I'm going to be able to do a lot more of the awareness. Also in April is Crime Victim Rights Week. And that comes up at the end of the month. These are just little reminders that this is why we do the work we do.
Thank you.
So, and I have one more. Yeah, it's also autism is in this month, and it's blue as well, so it gets a little confusing. But, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to new business. Commissioner Hughes. We'll do yours first, and then we'll go back to the insurance.
Okay, I just thought, because, you know, we can see budget issues coming before we even start the process, I thought maybe it would be good to preemptively meet with the different departments and really tell them our concerns and maybe even talk to them about challenging them to do a flat cut, whether it's 10%, 15% across the board before they even start their budget. Because they're gonna be going through that process pretty soon. And to me, it's a lot harder for them to bring us their finished budget and then us go through line by line and question everything they're doing when they perhaps can look at it while they're putting it together and seeing where they could possibly make some changes. I don't know how it's been done in the past, but I just feel like the communication needs to be there between us and the different departments before the process gets that far.
So we don't even know if we're gonna have to cut anywhere. So to even tell them to watch, because we may get tons of money from Hills, from the state, we might not even have to cut. So to tell them to even cut is gonna be a total waste. And these meetings, it's a lot of work for me. So we're not even gonna be giving them their forms. I'm not even gonna give them to them until right before May 1st. They have to give them back to me May 15th. And then that's when the process starts. Me entering numbers, me giving the numbers to you guys. And then that's when the process starts. To even meet beforehand is a complete waste.
Well, I understand what you're saying. You know, when you get to that point, I understand what you're saying. I just feel like it should not be all on you. I think as commissioners, we're the ones responsible for the budgeting.
But you're not.
ultimately, I believe we're the ones that approve the budget, so.
Approve it. I am the budget officer by state statute, if you would like to look at it.
I know what the state statute is, Becky. What I'm saying as a commissioner, I would like to talk directly to these people. You know, maybe we'll get tons of money. Wonderful. I wish we had enough money to make everybody happy. But that doesn't mean we can't be fiscally responsible and challenge these people to look at their budgets and do what they can to spend less money. Even if we, what would that mean? That would mean we'd have more money in our coffers for other projects or for emergencies. I think, I just feel like it would be a good idea.
I think that, I think a good step might be, is just tell every board, say, expect the same budget as last year. And you should start conversations now of what a decrease might look for you. Because unfortunately, we're not gonna be able to come up with numbers until we know what the numbers are. But I don't have a problem with telling them that. I mean, please look for, maybe, we told them to all cut 20%, and we've never gone back to that original point. And I think that's why it seems like every other week, or every other meeting in here, we're doing budget amendments, because people are finding that it's been untenable so far, or untenable so far, but I don't know. I don't have a problem telling them that, but I think that's a good, by the way, start looking for cuts if you can, but Becky's right too. I mean, we're not gonna know until the day comes and we have our funding secured. But.
When does the credit report, you guys try to get that released?
They'll release the next one, I believe, in July.
Right after budget meeting.
Right.
We will see more in direct distribution this year, right?
No.
No, we're not.
You are, I was just looking at the numbers.
Are we?
I have sent this to all the clerks. I've not finalized the revenue estimating manual because I'm waiting on some whiteout numbers, but Weston County will see about a $250,000+ increase in direct distribution. That's a result, even though there was more money appropriated for this biennium, there was a portion of last biennium's money that was targeted to hardship counties, of which you are a part of, under a different formula, slightly different formula. They just distributed the money through the regular formula this time, and as a result, you do actually see a decrease.
From where we were last year.
Correct.
But from before that hardship money came out.
Before, if you go back to not counting last biennium when we saw that hardship money and some increases, you are actually up about 15,000 over the last fiscal year in that period.
Okay, I was yeah, you haven't confused, I guess there. Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, it's
Before the other formula was used.
Yeah.
It's all distributed this time on Madden formula. The hardship formula money is not there.
It is, and the other issue that happened last year is that they appropriated an additional $26 million just for that fiscal year, which bumped everybody up. So there were a couple of factors that threw your numbers up that aren't in play this time.
And what, we're about 50% of that, or 60? County?
What do you mean?
Of that 250 number.
Your total,
or is that just to the county, not including the city?
You are estimated, and this comes from the Legislative Service Office, so I say it's an estimation, but this is what they've said your number is going to be. It's $960,439. Is your just the counties?
Just the county.
That doesn't count the municipalities.
Reading?
Did you want to add?
No.
It's always a jam, and I don't want to put myself in a jam or annoy anybody, but here, just that statement alone says that, and I'm not sure if I'm agreeing with Commissioner Todd or I'm agreeing with
Vera, but the communication with the elected officials is important. And whether we like, no one's criticizing anyone else's duties or job. Ultimately, you're the county budget officer, but in the end, you can do all the budgets you want. If the commission doesn't approve it, it doesn't fly. All I'm saying is I think that the communication, it doesn't hurt anything to meet with the officials. I've had some elected officials say, well, you guys never even talked to me about your budget. We've had that in the past. Now, I don't necessarily think that's 100% accurate. We try the best that we can. But I think it's been pushed that we have a budget issue. And some of the ideas, like you came up with that in the 5% on some of those things, maybe those are those are good ideas, but I don't think we can ever go wrong meeting with our elected officials. And I'm not saying have special meetings. Maybe we have them after our regular session so that it's not inconvenience anybody to have to drive 2 different places or whatever. But meeting with the elected officials, I don't think is ever a bad thing. Whether they criticize us or they're for us, the budget is important and it needs to be looked at. So I would be in support of that to meet with them, those meetings anyway. Timing, we might not have the numbers, but they might have wants lists and, like you said, saying 20% or whatever that number is, you need to look at a cut. I mean, that kind of prepares them instead of they had a week to look at it and we threw this together and nobody's happy. So I would be in support of that. That's fine.
Part of the issue too is, it's first April already. So even if we schedule a meeting, by the time we say, okay, do 5%, and then they actually have time to meet with their board, we're gonna probably have the number anyways, pretty close to that time. I think right now is the time, just a friendly reminder out to the boards, regardless of meeting with them, plan on cuts and try to figure out what you can do, because it's probably gonna be necessary.
I know it's out of order, but can I just throw something? Because I was at the school board meeting last week, and they got notification from the school department that they're going to be decreased $200,000 for District 1, and other school boards, districts around the county. Not the state too. So just something. I don't know if it has any bearing on what we're talking about here, but they just got notified within the last 2 weeks they were going to lose $200,000. Thank you.
And depending on how many people start taking advantage of these tax reform things, it's going to be, I don't know.
Interesting.
But I'd get an email sent out to them and say, start talking about it with your boards immediately and invite them to the next meeting. I don't mind having them come to the next meeting even. And reinforcing this issue and, because it's going to take them a while if they can figure it out. It's going to take them time to try to cut anyways, but be prepared, maybe.
Well, and this is kind of off topic, and I don't know how much it's gonna cost, but we're working with the sheriff's department. They got a new timesheet system, and I'm working with Tyler Tech to see about implementing it to import it in. I don't know, they're working on getting me whether we can just import it in or if we're gonna have to get a different program. I don't know. They said right now, some programs work importing in. They gotta see if the one that they got works or not. So I'll keep you guys updated on the program.
Well, perhaps, instead of meeting with each one separately, at this point, maybe we should just invite all of them to our next meeting and put it on our agenda to just talk to any department heads that want to come, but also send an email, explaining that our budget's going to be smaller, as Jeremiah said, and that everybody needs to take it seriously. But I think it's good for us to make that communication effort and to show the seriousness of it. And I know, I'm sure they always think that the commissioners don't want them to spend as much money, but this would give them a little opportunity, what Todd said, to be thinking about if they have a wish list, to get more serious about what they really want and what they really need.
So, and they got to realize when they get a budget, they have to stick to it and not keep coming in for budget adjustments,
And that's
because
something we could
we
talk to
have
them
one
about also.
department who's wanting to use baling twine because they have a printer that is completely falling apart, because they know how to stick within their budget and they know that the budget is getting to the end. And then we have other departments that just continually come in because they feel that the budget is limitless, that even though they're completely gone over, that they can just come in for a budget adjustment and they can just keep tapping into other funds. And
I agree with
it's very frustrating.
And that's gotta be frustrating for you, but I would say we need to talk to whoever's bailing printers together. That's not the right thing to do either, but, that would probably take
They
precedence.
didn't actually do that, but that was a comment that they made, that their printer is falling apart because they're one that stays within their budget because they don't wanna go over.
Absolutely. Anything else? So we're gonna put a memo out and we're going to invite them to the next, am I gathering that, or we're gonna invite them to the next meeting or invite them to the next, maybe they can't make the next meeting, but the next few meetings, they can come in and talk to us about these things. Is that what we're on? Okay.
Okay, so Amber went through the Blue Cross Blue Shield, and if you'll notice, so just throw away the ones I gave you before. Or disregard them. Go to the black and white ones. So, the one is the current, what we're paying now. The next page would be the split, 50-50. County takes on increase and percentage of what it'll stay the same as what the county pays now and what the employee pays now. So you guys can see how many employees are, on the 1,500, on the 2,500. And then you guys can just look at it and see what the cost will be. And then if you could let me know as far as I don't think she did the return or oh yeah, we did figure that one out, didn't we?
Yeah.
And
About
there's 12
per year.
law enforcement officers on that right now. But like Dan said, if they're fully staffed with detention and deputies, it would be 17.
So obviously with the budget that where we are, we're probably not looking at giving any cost of living increases. This in effect would be, if we took on the entire amount, would be a raise without really, and it's a raise, but it's not in their pockets.
So if we were to do that right now, at the current rate that we're on, the county pays yearly $819,000. If we were to take on the entire increase, that would put us at $894,000. So that's
75,000.
If we make them pay a portion of it, they're gonna take a decrease in their pay, so.
Yes.
It was interesting when he was removed. There's quite a few people that will remember my comments at the time because it came after Ogden reportedly, I guess you should say, because it was reported and then they claimed that he claimed that didn't happen, but we all saw the letters where he made the chairmans of the board sign that we're going to do this and that and the other thing and we're not going to disobey, and
we're not going to disobey. I love that. I love that part. We're not going to disobey.
pretty much that's what I got
Yeah.
from it. Reading it is, aye, aye, Captain, we will follow your rule. It kind of made me look a little different at Driscoll. And then this year's made
Well,
it
and you
even.
didn't just look different. Come on, you gave him a nickname even.
I gave him a nickname. He was saved in my phone still to this day as Dictator Driscoll. And I still don't feel bad about that because Weston County hasn't seen him once leading up to this session.
If we make them pay a portion of it, they're gonna take a decrease in their pay, so
Yes.
it's the board's wishes. Commissioner Todd, you said you might have an idea. I just would love to hear it.
Well, this board takes 1/3 of all the, to my knowledge, I don't know that everybody takes advantage of it, but I assume everybody does.
I'll have
1/3 of all these costs are gobbled up by this board. I mean, I'd put my insurance up on the table if everybody else would. Save the county $100,000 right there. That's an option.
I would say that's definitely leading by example, so I don't.
Short of that, I don't know what we're gonna do. I mean, if we're talking about the board's 5%, we need to be talking about us by minimum percent. And I don't know what we're gonna do. I mean, that's not a thing. I mean, that can be done come budget time. It can be done today, it can be done whenever, it can not be
So,
done
I just need the decision on this today.
today.
The other stuff I just need the law enforcement retirement decision today, because that goes into effect July, because we have to get that into the system. This we have to get back to Blue Cross Blue Shield. That has to be signed by the chairman.
Before next meeting.
Yep. And it seems like a lot, but we have several employees and, spouses who have a lot of stuff that they use monthly. And the increase should have been a lot more, but because Blue Cross Blue Shield pools all of the counties together, and then they split the cost increase amongst all of, like school districts,
It's a pool.
Yes, so ours isn't as much as it should be. So, something to think about.
Well, I think with the way the economy is, and it bears the weight on our shoulders if we allow, if we're going to pay for it. But if we don't try to pay for it, it puts the weight on our employees' shoulders. And Nathan has a good idea, but we can address that maybe later. We have to make this decision today. So we have to think about, we just have to keep it in mind. If we're going to eat this cost, it's going to have to come out of the budget in different places. So we come up with a solution, like you said. I'll make a motion that the county pays the additional cost increase for Blue Cross Blue Shield for our employees.
Is the motion to do the 100% coverage, is that what your
Yes,
intention is?
yes.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? No second?
I'll second for discussion.
I have a motion properly seconded. Discussion.
I like the idea of the county absorbing that expense, but the question is where ultimately is that going to come from? Nathan did suggest an opportunity or a possibility for that. Other than that option, is there any other consideration for funding for that? In addition, we're
And
looking at
please correct me if I'm wrong, there's always the option that we could pull it from our general fund and cover the cost, but, you know, my philosophy, at least on budgets, is that we should always be putting something back into the general fund, not taking large chunks out on a rainy day, deal, but, I mean, the other point is we don't know, I mean, we've got an estimate of the numbers and we know what's coming, but we don't know what's coming in, and maybe we'll get enough to be able to cover it, I don't know, but, I mean, there's certainly other options in cuts and, you know, pulling from the general fund if necessary, but I don't know that that's maybe the wisest decision, but that's just my opinion.
I feel that the county, assuming the responsibility of the increases, does show the appreciation to the employees for the work that they do and the people that we have. I think it is a gesture in that direction.
Either one, I'm sorry.
You know, I'm not opposed to leading by example. You know, we can save this county a ton of money if just we drop off our insurance. You know, lead by example. We as commissioners would take a hell of a cut, but you know what? It's leading by example.
The other issue I have too, and I'm not discounting trying to help out the employees, but we're targeting a group again, which we did last time. We gave them 100% increase last time with no increase in cost of living. We're doing it again. There's 18 people I see, if my count's right. Or is that wrong? 18. What percentage, I mean, how many people aren't on the county insurance that are working for the county? Do you have any idea?
I'd have to look.
Yeah, like 60.
There's not very many.
We have like 63 employees total, counting the commissioners.
18 on the 25. And
No, it's a lot lower and we've had a lot of people quit.
11, 14.
I was thinking we were, Amber's at lunch, I was thinking we were at 50, 53.
I misspoke earlier. I just looked at the 2,500 deductible. Of the 18, we'd be 5, but I forgot to add in the $1,500 deductible people. But isn't that what that number is associated to with who's choosing what on the left-hand side of those numbers? Which comes up to 32 employees.
And
43.
Sorry?
43 employees.
Did I do my math wrong? Yeah, I did.
You went up, didn't you?
I did.
Hey,
It's usually Newcastle
And
involved in
Laramie.
their math.
watch yourself.
And what does the board think about with the situation that we have? Maybe we had a thing where people had to come to fill positions. What if we put on a full hiring freeze until the budget is resolved? Any positions that aren't filled don't get filled until after the budget is done. That might save us some, I don't know, but it's just a suggestion.
I can't do that, I've got to find someone for my office.
And
Well, I mean, we all,
that wouldn't be fair to our offices, you know.
No, and they've got to get theirs
Yeah,
filled.
the sheriff they need to fill theirs. We can't put a freeze on
No.
the positions we've had. Any position we got that's open needs to be filled.
well, it's just a suggestion, but, you know, it would. Go ahead.
I guess I'm not opposed to Veer's motion. We can figure it out in June, I guess, or end of May, but it's about an $80,000 increase, so we're gonna have to figure out, right?
75.
So,
That's with the current employees. We get these other positions filled, we're gonna be back up to some.
That's true too.
You know, that'll put us back up over that 75,000.
Which is why I suggested it's gonna increase,
Yep.
not lessen.
Based off of those numbers.
It's drastic, but
There's a motion on the floor.
Properly seconded.
are we done with discussion? So we have a motion that's been properly seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those against?
Much as it hurt.
It does hurt. That is scary.
Because I couldn't hear everybody and I don't want to miss anybody's vote. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
I recommend we do it from now on.
Oh, was that? Oh.
And then you have to watch everybody and see who votes. Can't just listen and write.
What about the law enforcement?
All right, now law
retirement?
enforcement, let's tackle that one.
The what?
Law
Yeah,
enforcement
yep.
retirement.
They just can't retire.
Deputy Fields, did you just leave? We can have this discussion.
Well, I gotta figure out what's going on.
Okay, so we figured out if the county pays all of the increase for the employee portion, it's $320 per month.
Per employee, for the whole department.
That's, I think, for the employer's portion and the employee's portion. Because because right now, they pay $3,245 for the employer's portion. It's gonna go up 0.9% for the employer's portion. But the county pays right now they'll pay 6.02% if it stays the same right now, because they'll have to pay 3.48 if the county does not pay all of it. If the county pays all of the increase, they'll pay 6.47% and the 9.5%.
And they'll continue to pay 3
And the employee will still only pay their 3.03% that they pay now. Clear as mud?
Clear as mud. What the county picks up 100% of the rest of the employees.
And they
retirement.
pick up 100% of theirs, but they get an additional.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's me. That 3.3% that they pay is above
Is above
what the normal
Yes,
employee gets
Yes.
for their.
They get an additional law enforcement retirement.
Okay.
That's why they can all retire after
At 20
just
years.
10 years.
Oh,
Is it
10
10 or
years.
20? No, 20. 20 years of service.
Oh, man.
Well,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
are we still at the bottom of the totem pole for wages in this state?
We got that way, yes. We were good, but everybody has reassessed and increased, and so yes, we are towards the bottom.
We got off the bottom for what, 6 months?
We were actually off the bottom probably for a year and a half,
Ooh,
because you guys did that large increase, which
2
put
years
us up
ago.
there pretty good, and then everybody else has done fairly large increases. So we are once again struggling.
We're back to the bottom.
So, but I would have to do an assessment again to
Yeah.
see exactly where we're.
In the scheme of the big picture, if the county picks it all up, total dollar wise isn't that big of an amount. You know, I know it's a struggle for law enforcement to keep and recruit and retain their employees. I'll make a motion that the county picks up the whole percentage of the increase for the law enforcement's retirement package.
I have a motion. Good. Can I get a second?
Nathan just.
Okay, thank you.
Can I,
Discussion.
okay, so is this just for this year or is it for the next 3 years? Right, it's the next 3 years that it is gonna increase?
It is going to step
Step.
up over a 3-year period.
So it's basically going to increase the
But
40,000 per year.
It's a small increase, like this, 0.9 each year.
Originally, they had evaluated a 5% jump just this year. They split that up into, it ends up being about a 5.4% increase once it's complete.
This is,
But
that bill is
steps
testified
up over a
on.
3-year period.
I'd amend my motion to pick it up over the 3-year period. If that's good with the second.
Sure. So the motion properly seconded. Any other discussion?
Thank you.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same thing. Passes.
It's
You
so
got it.
funny to me
What?
that you guys are raising your
It's
hand.
working.
It's just funny, I guess. Okay.
Okay.
It's not that much more difficult.
Mm-mm.
Well, if I'm not watching and I'm writing, I cannot hear them.
I can.
You gotta start paying attention.
Oh,
Well, then fine, you can have all these. I don't need to be here.
Okay,
that's not fair.
is there any public comment? Yes.
Stanley, I just want to take a minute. I know the vote earlier on the resolution was a hard one, and I respect everybody's decision. It was good, honest debate amongst the commissioners, and I appreciate that. I'll just add one thing. When our founding fathers sent their letter to King George called the Declaration of Independence, they knew by doing that they were going to take on the largest military in the world at that point. They were willing to put it all on the line for what they're doing. So I heard a lot of good debate, and I just want to say thank you for taking the time. I know it was a very hard decision.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Is there any other public comment? All right, Commissioner's comment. Commissioner Todd, I'll start with you. Anything? No? Commissioner Huber? Commissioner Wagner?
I voiced my concerns during the meeting.
Okay.
Onward.
Commissioner Porter? I don't have anything. We move on to vouchers.